Rain hammered the bulletproof windows of the Bellini mansion the night Evelyn Vaughn's world shattered into 1,000 irreparable pieces. She found her boyfriend tangled in silk sheets with her best friend, their laughter still echoing when she opened the door. But the real shock wasn't the betrayal. It was the man watching from the shadows. Roman Bellini, Damien's father, the ruthless crime lord who would offer her something far more dangerous than love. Revenge wrapped in a wedding ring. What started as vengeance became something neither of them could control. This is the story of how a broken girl became a queen and how Manhattan's most feared kingpin fell to his knees for the one woman he couldn't break. If you want to see how far this story of power, betrayal, and unexpected love travels, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. Now let's begin. Boston. The rain came down like bullets against the marble steps of the Bellini estate, and Evelyn Vaughn stood at the wrought iron gates wondering if she'd made a catastrophic mistake coming here unannounced. Her hands shook as she gripped her phone, staring at the screen for the 100th time. 3 days. 72 hours of radio silence from Damien Bellini, the man who'd promised her forever 6 months ago over champagne and strawberries at some absurdly expensive rooftop restaurant she couldn't even pronounce the name of. No texts, no calls, just crushing, suffocating silence. The security guard at the gate looked her over with the kind of detached scrutiny that made her skin crawl. Black suit, earpiece, the slight bulge under his jacket that suggested he was armed. Everything about the Bellini estate screamed money and danger in equal measure. "I'm here to see Damien," Evelyn said, hating how small her voice sounded against the storm. "Damien Bellini. I'm his girlfriend." The guard's expression didn't change. He spoke quietly into his radio, words Evelyn couldn't make out over the thunder rolling across Manhattan's skyline. Then he nodded once and stepped aside, the gates groaning open like the mouth of something hungry. "Mr. Damien is in the main house. 3rd floor, east wing." Evelyn's heels clicked against wet stone as she walked up the driveway, past fountains and sculpted hedges that probably cost more than her yearly salary at the nonprofit where she worked. The Bellini mansion rose before her like a fortress made of black marble and glass, every window glowing with warm light that felt cold somehow, unwelcoming. She'd been here twice before. Once for a family dinner where Damien's father barely acknowledged her existence, and once for a charity gala where she'd felt like an imposter surrounded by politicians and people who smiled with their mouths but never their eyes. Both times, Damien had kept her close, his hand always on the small of her back, protective and possessive in equal measure. Now she was alone. The front door opened before she could knock. A woman in a crisp black uniform, housekeeper Evelyn guessed, gestured her inside without a word. The foyer stretched out like a cathedral, all polished marble and crystal chandeliers that threw fractured light across oil paintings of stern-faced men who all shared the same dark, predatory eyes. The Bellini bloodline stared down at her with judgment. "3rd floor," the housekeeper said quietly, then disappeared down a hallway, her footsteps swallowed by expensive carpet. Evelyn climbed the stairs with her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Something felt wrong. The house was too quiet, too still, like the moment before an explosion. She told herself she was being paranoid, that Damien probably had a reasonable explanation for vanishing. Maybe a family emergency, maybe business trouble. The Bellinis owned half of Manhattan's commercial real estate, or at least that's what Damien always said when he deflected questions about where exactly the family money came from. She reached the 3rd floor. The hallway stretched out in both directions, lined with closed doors. East wing. She turned right, following the corridor until she saw light spilling from beneath a door at the very end. Damien's bedroom. Evelyn's hand trembled as she reached for the doorknob. She could hear voices inside. Low, intimate, laughter that made her stomach drop. She opened the door. The scene before her moved in slow motion, every detail burning itself into her memory with horrifying clarity. Damien tangled in black silk sheets, his bare chest covered in lipstick marks that definitely weren't her shade, and beside him, wearing nothing but Damien's dress shirt unbuttoned down the front, was Serena Hale. Evelyn's best friend since college, the girl who'd helped her pick out the dress for her first date with Damien, the girl who'd held her hair back when she got food poisoning last month and cried with her during sad movies and knew every secret Evelyn had ever confessed. They both froze when they saw her. Damien's face went white. Serena's expression shifted from shock to something worse. Satisfaction. Like she'd been waiting for this moment. "Evie," Damien started, scrambling out of bed, reaching for his pants. Evelyn just stared at them. She wanted to scream. Wanted to throw something, break something, make them hurt the way she was hurting. But instead she felt nothing. Just a vast, empty coldness spreading through her chest like frostbite. "How long?" Her voice came out flat. "Dead." Serena laughed. Actually laughed, high and cruel. "Does it matter?" 6 months, Damien said quietly. And that's when Evelyn realized he wasn't even going to lie to her. "Since before we started dating." The words landed like physical blows. 6 months. Every moment of their relationship had been built on a foundation of betrayal. Every kiss, every promise, every time he told her he loved her, all of it contaminated. Evelyn turned to leave. "Wait." Damien grabbed her arm. "Let me explain." She yanked herself free, and the look she gave him must have been dangerous because he actually stepped back. "Don't touch me." "Baby, please. I'm not your baby." Evelyn's voice cracked, but she kept walking, kept moving, because if she stopped, she'd shatter completely, and she refused to give them that satisfaction. She made it to the hallway before the tears came, angry, burning tears that she wiped away with shaking hands as she stumbled toward the staircase. The mansion felt like it was closing in around her. All those expensive walls and priceless paintings mocking her for ever thinking she belonged in Damien's world. She nearly collided with someone at the top of the stairs. A man stepped out of the shadows, tall and imposing, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car. Silver hair swept back from a face that was all sharp angles and dark, calculating eyes. He looked like Damien would in 30 years if Damien ever developed a backbone and stopped being a spoiled coward. Roman Bellini. Damien's father. The man newspapers called the King of Manhattan's underworld when they thought they could get away with it. Evelyn had met him twice and spoken to him exactly 3 times, all brief exchanges that left her feeling like she'd been x-rayed down to her bones. Roman Bellini didn't do small talk. He studied people the way scientists studied specimens under glass. Now he studied her with those predatory dark eyes, taking in her tears, her devastation, the way her hands trembled. From somewhere down the hall, she could hear Damien's voice rising in panic and Serena's laughter still ringing like broken glass. Roman's expression didn't change. "You found them." It wasn't a question. Evelyn wiped her face, trying to salvage some dignity. "I should go." "Should you?" He tilted his head slightly, the movement almost serpentine. "Or should you stay and listen to what I have to say?" "I don't—" She stopped because something in his voice made her pause. Not kindness. Roman Bellini didn't do kindness, but something else. Calculation. Like she was a chess piece he was considering moving. "Walk with me," Roman said, and it wasn't a request. Before Evelyn could respond, he turned and headed down the stairs, clearly expecting her to follow. And she did. Because what else was she supposed to do? Leave? Go back to her tiny apartment and cry herself sick over a man who'd been cheating on her with her best friend for 6 months? At least following Roman gave her something to focus on besides the pain threatening to tear her apart. They walked in silence through the mansion, past more priceless art and furniture that belonged in museums. Roman's footsteps were quiet, controlled, like everything about him. He led her to a study lined with leather-bound books and dark wood, closing the door behind them. "Sit." He gestured to a chair across from an enormous desk. Evelyn sat because her legs felt like they might give out anyway. The leather creaked beneath her. Roman moved to a sidebar and poured 2 glasses of something amber from a crystal decanter. He set one in front of her. "I don't drink," Evelyn said automatically. "You do tonight." Roman settled into the chair behind his desk, regarding her over the rim of his glass. "Tell me something, Miss Vaughn. Why did you come here?" She stopped, realizing she didn't have a good answer. "I wanted to know where Damien was, why he wasn't answering my calls. And now you know." "Yes?" The word tasted like ash. Roman took a slow sip of his drink. "But that's not really what you came here for, is it?" Evelyn's fingers tightened around the glass she hadn't touched. I don't know what you mean. You came here for answers, for truth. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze sharpening. My son is many things, Miss Vaughn. Charming, entitled, weak. But he's never been particularly good at hiding his nature. You suspected something was wrong long before tonight. She wanted to deny it, but the words stuck in her throat. Because he was right. She'd known. Not the specifics, but somewhere deep down she'd known Damien was pulling away. The canceled dates, the vague excuses, the way he looked at his phone and smiled at messages he never showed her. What do you want? Evelyn asked, because Roman Bellini didn't do anything without a reason. An interesting question. He set his glass down with a soft click. Most people in your position would be asking what I'm offering. I'm not interested in your money. No. His expression shifted into something that might have been approval. You're not. That's why you're still sitting here instead of running away crying. You have a spine, Miss Vaughn. Rare quality. Thunder rolled outside the windows. Rain lashed the glass like it was trying to break through. I'm going to tell you a story, Roman said quietly, and then I'm going to make you an offer. Whether you accept or walk away is entirely up to you. Evelyn should have left. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to get as far away from this dangerous man and his dangerous family as possible. But she stayed, because somewhere beneath the pain and betrayal, curiosity burned hot and sharp. 30 years ago, Roman began, I married a woman named Isabella. Beautiful, intelligent, from a good family. Everything a man in my position could want. His voice carried no emotion, like he was reciting historical facts. She gave me 2 children, Damien and Valentina. And then, 10 years into our marriage, I discovered she'd been having an affair with my business partner. Evelyn's breath caught. I could have divorced her, Roman continued, could have destroyed her family, ruined her reputation, made her disappear. But I didn't. Do you know why? She shook her head. Because I didn't love her. I never loved her. He said it like stating the weather. Our marriage was a transaction, merging families, consolidating power. The affair was simply her attempting to find something I couldn't give her, so I let her have it, and we continued our arrangement until she died 5 years ago. I'm sorry, Evelyn said automatically, though she wasn't sure what she was apologizing for. Roman's laugh was cold. Don't be. I'm telling you this so you understand something about the Bellini family. We don't do love, Miss Vaughn. We do power, strategy, survival. He paused. My son learned all the wrong lessons from watching his mother and me. He thinks he can have everything, power, pleasure, control, without consequences. Tonight, you're his consequence. I don't understand what this has to do with me. Patience. Roman stood, moving to the window. Lightning illuminated his profile, all sharp lines and shadows. I've spent 3 decades building an empire. Real estate, construction, shipping, entertainment, legitimate businesses with occasionally illegitimate methods. My children were supposed to inherit that empire and expand it. Damien was supposed to be my successor. Was. Past tense. But he's weak, Roman said softly. Unfocused. He destroys things without understanding their value, including you. Evelyn's hands trembled. Why do you care? Because I'm tired of watching him waste opportunities. Roman turned to face her fully. And because you, Miss Vaughn, represent a very interesting opportunity. The way he said it made her skin prickle with warning. Here's what I know about you, Roman continued, moving back to his desk. 27 years old. Graduated Columbia with honors. Works at a nonprofit advocating for domestic violence survivors. Modest apartment in Queens. No family money, no connections, no debts. Clean record. You don't gamble, don't do drugs, don't sleep around. He rattled off the details like reading from a file, and Evelyn realized with a chill that he probably was. You're exactly the kind of woman my son should have treasured instead of betrayed. You had me investigated? I investigate everyone who enters my family's orbit. Roman sat back down, steepling his fingers. And here's what else I know. You're smart enough to recognize that walking away from Damien with your dignity intact makes you more powerful than begging him to take you back. You didn't scream or throw things or fall apart. You left. That tells me you understand something most people never learn. What's that? That revenge is a dish best served cold. His smile was thin and dangerous. So let me offer you something, Miss Vaughn. A way to make my son truly understand what he's lost. A way to transform humiliation into power. Evelyn's heart hammered. I don't want revenge. Liar. The word was soft but absolute. Everyone wants revenge. The question is whether you're brave enough to take it when it's offered. She should have walked away, should have told this terrifying man to leave her alone and never contacted his family again. But the pain was still too fresh, too raw, and underneath it burned something darker. Anger, hurt, the desperate need to make Damien feel even a fraction of what he'd done to her. What are you offering? The words came out before she could stop them. Roman's smile widened. Marry me. The study spun. Evelyn gripped the arms of her chair to keep from falling. What? Marry me, Roman repeated calmly. A legal arrangement. You become my wife, Damien's stepmother, the woman he betrayed elevated to a position of power he can never touch. That's insane. It's strategic. He leaned forward. Think about it, Miss Vaughn. Right now, you're the girl my son cheated on. Disposable. Forgettable. But if you marry me, you become untouchable. You gain access to resources, protection, influence, everything Damien promised you and failed to deliver. You don't even know me. I know enough. You're intelligent, composed, and angry enough to consider an insane proposition instead of running away screaming. That's more than adequate. Evelyn's mind reeled. Why would you do this? To punish your son? Partially. Roman's expression turned calculating. But also because it serves my interests. I need a wife who understands that our arrangement is transactional, not romantic, someone who won't mistake business for affection. You fit those parameters perfectly. This is crazy. Yes. He didn't deny it. But here's what I'm offering, a 6-month marriage contract. You move into this estate under my protection. You attend events as my wife. You maintain the appearance of a legitimate marriage. In exchange, I'll fund your nonprofit with more money than you could raise in 10 years. I'll provide security, housing, and a substantial salary. And when the 6 months end, we divorce quietly. You walk away financially secure with a reputation that will open any door in this city. And if I say no, you walk out that door and never hear from me again. Damien will probably try to win you back with empty apologies. Serena will gloat about her victory. Your life continues exactly as it was, except now you know how easily you can be discarded. The words cut because they were true. Evelyn stared at the amber liquid in her glass, her reflection distorted in the crystal. Outside, thunder cracked like the world splitting open. I need time to think, she said. No. Roman's voice hardened. This offer expires the moment you leave this room. Decide now, Miss Vaughn. Walk away with your dignity, or take what's being offered and transform humiliation into power. Evelyn's hands shook. This was insane. Marrying a man she barely knew, a dangerous man who controlled half of Manhattan through methods she probably didn't want to understand. It was reckless and stupid, and exactly the kind of decision that would destroy her life. But staying with Damien had already destroyed it, and somewhere beneath the fear and confusion, a dark voice whispered that Roman was right. Damien needed to understand what he'd lost, needed to see her elevated beyond his reach, needed to know that betraying her had consequences. If I agree, Evelyn said slowly, I want conditions. Roman's expression shifted into something approving. Name them. I keep working at the nonprofit. I'm not giving up my life to play housewife in a mansion. Acceptable. No one touches the money you donate. It goes directly to the organization. Not to me personally. Agreed. And she swallowed hard. If I want out before 6 months, I can leave. No questions, no retaliation. Roman studied her for a long moment. That condition I cannot accept. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Once you agree to this arrangement, Roman said quietly, you're entering my world. There are enemies, Miss Vaughn. Rival families, business competitors, people who would love nothing more than to see me weakened. If you walk away mid-contract, you become a vulnerability, a loose end. I don't permit loose ends. So I'm trapped. You're protected. His gaze intensified. I will keep you safe from anyone who tries to harm you. But in exchange, you honor the contract, 6 months. That's all I'm asking. Every rational part of Evelyn screamed at her to refuse, to run, to get as far away from Roman Bellini and his dangerous world as humanly possible. Instead, she picked up the glass of amber liquid and drank it in one burning swallow. I want it in writing, she said, setting the glass down with a sharp click. Every term, every condition. I want a legal contract that protects me if you decide I'm disposable. Roman's smile was predatory and approving in equal measure. You'll have it by tomorrow morning. Then yes. The word tasted like ash and fire. I'll marry you. Thunder cracked so loud the windows rattled. Lightning illuminated Roman's face, all sharp planes and dark satisfaction. Welcome to the family, Miss Vaughn. Evelyn stood on shaking legs, her entire world tilting on its axis. She'd just agreed to marry a man she barely knew out of revenge against a man who'd shattered her heart. It was reckless and dangerous and probably the worst decision she'd ever made. But as she walked out of Roman's study and back into the cold hallway, she felt something she hadn't felt in 3 days. Power. The front door of the mansion opened as she approached, the housekeeper appearing like a ghost. Rain hammered the stone steps outside, but Evelyn barely noticed. She was about to leave when a voice stopped her cold. Evie. She turned. Damien stood at the top of the staircase, shirt half-buttoned, hair disheveled. He looked small somehow, diminished, like a boy caught breaking rules instead of a man who'd destroyed her trust. I can explain, he said, starting down the stairs. Evelyn looked at him with cold, level eyes. Don't bother. Please. He reached the bottom step, close enough to touch her, but smart enough not to try. I made a mistake. I'll fix this. I'll do anything. You can't fix this, Damien. I love you. His voice cracked. I know I screwed up, but I love you. No. Evelyn's voice was steel. You love the idea of me. The pretty girlfriend who made you look good at charity events and didn't ask too many questions about where you went at night. But you never loved me. If you did, you wouldn't have spent 6 months fucking my best friend. Damien flinched like she'd slapped him. Goodbye, Damien. Evelyn turned toward the door. Wait. Desperation edged his voice. Where are you going? What are you going to do? She paused at the threshold, rain misting across her skin. When she looked back at him, her smile was cold and sharp as broken glass, something you'll regret more than anything you've ever done. Then she walked into the storm, leaving Damien standing alone in his father's mansion, surrounded by wealth and power but utterly, completely abandoned. He didn't know it yet, but his world was about to burn, and Evelyn Vaughn would be the one holding the match. The contract arrived at Evelyn's apartment at 6 a.m, delivered by a man in a black suit who didn't smile or speak, just handed her a leather portfolio and left. Evelyn sat on her threadbare couch in yesterday's clothes, mascara smudged under her eyes, and read through 20 pages of legal terminology that basically boiled down to, you belong to Roman Bellini for 6 months, and if you break the contract, you'll wish you hadn't. Her hands shook as she signed her name at the bottom. Evelyn Vaughn, soon to be Evelyn Bellini. The thought made her want to vomit. Her phone buzzed for the 40th time since last night. Damien. Again. She'd stopped reading his messages around 3 a.m. when they devolved from apologies into accusations, blaming her for snooping, for not trusting him, for ruining everything by showing up unannounced. Classic Damien. Make it her fault somehow. Serena had texted too, just once. 3 words that made Evelyn's blood boil. He chose me. Evelyn deleted the message and blocked the number. Then she called her supervisor at the nonprofit and took a week of personal leave. She packed 2 suitcases with clothes that suddenly felt cheap and worn compared to the world she was about to enter. And when the black town car arrived at noon, driven by the same silent man who delivered the contract, she locked her apartment door and didn't look back. The Bellini estate looked different in daylight, less fortress, more palace. Sunlight glinted off black marble and manicured gardens that stretched for what looked like acres. Armed guards stood at intervals around the property, trying and failing to look like normal security. Evelyn counted at least 6 of them before the car pulled up to the main entrance. Roman waited at the top of the stairs, dressed in a navy suit that probably cost more than her rent. He looked exactly the same as last night, calm, controlled, predatory. Like nothing in the world could shake him. Miss Vaughn. He didn't move to help her with her suitcases. Welcome home. The word felt wrong. This wasn't home. This was a battlefield disguised as luxury. I signed the contract, Evelyn said, climbing the stairs. Her legs felt weak, unsteady, like she was walking toward an execution instead of a marriage. I know. My lawyer confirmed it an hour ago. Roman gestured her inside. You'll be staying in the West Wing, third floor. I've had a room prepared. Not our room. A room. Evelyn followed him through the mansion, past the same priceless art and furniture she'd seen last night. Everything looked colder in daylight, more sterile, like a museum where people happened to live. They climbed the stairs, not the same staircase where she'd confronted Damien, thank God, and walked down a hallway lined with closed doors. Roman stopped at the second-to-last door and pushed it open. The room beyond was enormous. King-sized bed with white linens, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens, a bathroom that was bigger than her entire apartment, everything white and cream and perfectly spotless. The closet is fully stocked, Roman said. My assistant took the liberty of ordering appropriate clothing. If anything doesn't fit, let her know. Evelyn stepped inside, her footsteps muffled by carpet so thick it felt like walking on clouds. Appropriate for what? For being my wife. Roman's tone suggested this should be obvious. You'll be attending events, dinners, galas. You'll need to look the part. I have clothes. Not the right clothes. He said it without cruelty, just fact. This isn't an insult, Miss Vaughn. It's practicality. The world we're entering judges everything, especially appearances. Evelyn wanted to argue, but she looked at her worn jeans and faded sweater and knew he was right. She didn't belong in this world. Not yet. Where's your room? She asked. Fourth floor, north wing. Roman checked his watch. We won't be sharing space unless necessary for appearances. Good. His smile was thin. I'm glad we understand each other. Dinner's at 7. Dress appropriately. My daughter will be joining us. Valentina? Yes. Something shifted in Roman's expression, too quick to read. She's protective of this family. Be prepared for scrutiny. More scrutiny than marrying a stranger for revenge? Much more. Roman turned to leave, then paused at the door. One more thing. Damien lives in the East Wing. You may run into him. I suggest you avoid engagement. Evelyn's stomach dropped. He's here? In this house? It's his home. Roman's voice held no sympathy. He'll remain here until he proves he can manage his own affairs without self-destructing, which, based on last night's performance, may take considerable time. You can't be serious. I'm always serious, Miss Vaughn. Roman's dark eyes pinned her. You agreed to this arrangement knowing my son lives here. If that's suddenly a problem, it's not. The lie tasted bitter. I'll handle it. See that you do. He left, closing the door behind him with a soft click that sounded too much like a cell locking. Evelyn sat on the edge of the enormous bed and buried her face in her hands. What the hell had she done? 24 hours ago, she'd been a normal person with a normal life. Now she was living in a mansion, engaged to a crime lord, about to become stepmother to the man who'd shattered her heart. This was insane. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Damien. We need to talk, please. Evelyn turned off her phone and threw it across the room. Dinner was a nightmare dressed up as a civilized conversation. Evelyn wore a navy dress from the closet Roman's assistant had stocked. Simple, elegant, expensive enough to make her uncomfortable. She'd spent 20 minutes trying to figure out how to style her hair before giving up and leaving it down. Everything about this world felt foreign, like trying to speak a language she'd never learned. The dining room could have seated 20 people easily. Long mahogany table, crystal chandelier, more silverware at each place setting than Evelyn had owned in her entire life. Roman sat at the head of the table, reading something on his phone. He'd changed into a black suit because apparently even family dinners required formal wear in the Bellini household. Evelyn took the seat to his right, her hands trembling as she reached for her water glass. Relax, Roman said without looking up from his phone. Valentina can smell fear. That's not reassuring. It wasn't meant to be. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Evelyn turned just as a girl swept into the dining room, and girl was the right word even though she had to be 18 or 19. Valentina Bellini had her father's dark eyes and sharp features, But where Roman's face was all hard lines and control, Valentina's held barely restrained fury. She stopped dead when she saw Evelyn. "You're kidding." Valentina's voice was cold enough to freeze blood. "Please tell me you're kidding." "Sit down," Roman said calmly. "No." Valentina crossed her arms. "I want to know what the hell she's doing here." "Valentina, is this about Damien? Because he's upstairs having a breakdown over some girl, and now you've brought her here?" Valentina's laugh was sharp and cruel. "What is this, a charity case?" Evelyn's jaw tightened. "I'm sitting right here." "Oh, I know." Valentina's gaze raked over her with open contempt. "I also know my brother's type. Pretty, naive, thinks she can fix the broken rich boy. How'd that work out for you?" "Val," Roman's voice cracked like a whip. "Sit down." For a moment, Valentina looked like she might refuse. Then she pulled out the chair across from Evelyn and sat with enough force to rattle the silverware. "Miss Vaughn will be staying with us," Roman said. "Indefinitely." "Why?" "Because I've asked her to marry me and she's accepted." The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Valentina stared at her father like he'd just announced the world was ending. "What?" "You heard me." "No." Valentina shook her head. "No, this is insane. You can't just... She's Damien's girlfriend." "Ex-girlfriend," Evelyn corrected quietly. "For like 5 minutes." Valentina's voice rose. "What is this? Some kind of revenge plot? You're marrying my father to get back at Damien?" "It's more complicated than that," Roman said. "Is it?" Valentina turned her fury on Evelyn. "What's your angle? Money? Protection? Access to Daddy's empire?" Evelyn met her gaze without flinching. "I don't have an angle." "Liar." "Valentina." Roman's tone held warning. "That's enough." "It's not enough." Valentina stood abruptly, her chair scraping against marble. "You can't do this. It's humiliating. What's everyone going to think?" "I don't care what they think." "Well, I do." Valentina's voice cracked. "We have a reputation, a legacy. You can't just marry some random girl because Damien screwed up." "Watch your tone." Roman's voice dropped to something dangerous. Valentina's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, Evelyn thought she might actually swing at her father. Then she turned and stormed out of the dining room, her footsteps echoing down the hallway like gunshots. Silence settled over the table. "Well," Evelyn said softly, "that went great." Roman picked up his wine glass. "She'll adjust." "Will she?" "Eventually." He took a slow sip. "Valentina is difficult. She's watched too many people use this family for personal gain. She doesn't trust easily." "Can't imagine why." Roman's expression flickered with something that might have been amusement. "You have a spine. Good. You'll need it." A door slammed somewhere in the house. Raised voices filtered through the walls, too muffled to make out words but clear enough to understand the tone. Anger, accusation. "Is that..." Evelyn started. "Valentina telling Damien about our arrangement." Roman set down his glass. "This should be entertaining." "Entertaining isn't the word I'd use." "What word would you use?" Evelyn thought about it. "Catastrophic." Roman smiled. Actually smiled, and it transformed his face into something almost human. "Perhaps, but necessary catastrophes can be useful." "Useful for what?" "Change." He leaned back in his chair. "My children have spent their entire lives insulated from consequences. Damien especially. He's never had to face the reality that his actions affect other people. Until now. So I'm a teaching moment. You're a reckoning." Roman's dark eyes pinned her. "And you're stronger than you realize, Miss Vaughn. Otherwise you wouldn't have survived last night without falling apart." Evelyn's throat tightened. "You don't know anything about me. I know you walked away from humiliation with your head up. I know you signed a contract most people would run from. I know you're sitting in this dining room facing hostility and judgment without backing down." He paused. "That's not weakness. That's survival." Before Evelyn could respond, footsteps thundered down the hallway. The dining room door slammed open, and Damien burst in looking like he'd been dragged through hell. His hair stuck up in every direction. His eyes were red-rimmed, and he smelled like he'd been drinking since last night. "Tell me it's not true," he demanded, staring at his father. Roman didn't even look at him. "Lower your voice. Tell me you're not marrying her. Damien's gaze swung to Evelyn, and the desperation in his eyes would have broken her heart yesterday. Today, it just made her tired. It's true, Evelyn said quietly. No. Damien moved toward her, but Roman stood abruptly, his presence filling the room like a physical force. Don't, Roman said softly. Don't take another step. Damien froze. Dad? You lost the right to call me that when you betrayed this young woman in my house. Roman's voice was cold as frozen steel. You made your choice, Serena over Evelyn, pleasure over respect. Now live with it. I made a mistake. You made 100 mistakes, but the worst one was thinking there wouldn't be consequences. Damien's face twisted. So what, you're marrying my girlfriend to punish me? Ex-girlfriend, Evelyn repeated, her voice steady. And I'm not your property, Damien. I never was. You love me. His voice cracked. I know you do. I loved who I thought you were. Evelyn stood, meeting his gaze. Turns out that person never existed. That's not fair. Fair? Her laugh was sharp. You spent 6 months sleeping with my best friend, and I'm the one being unfair? It wasn't supposed to mean anything. Then you're even more pathetic than I thought. The words came out cold and final. If it didn't mean anything, you threw away our relationship for nothing. Congratulations. Damien looked like she'd punched him. Evie, don't call me that. She moved past him toward the door. You don't get to use my nickname anymore. You don't get to pretend we're friends or that what we had was real. It's over, Damien. Accept it. She walked out before he could respond, her heart hammering so hard it hurt. Behind her, she heard Roman's voice, low and controlled. Get out of my sight. Now! Evelyn made it to the grand staircase before her legs gave out. She sat on the marble steps, hands shaking, trying to breathe through the adrenaline coursing through her system. Confronting Damien should have felt satisfying. Instead, it just felt hollow. That was impressive. Evelyn looked up. Valentina stood at the top of the stairs, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Thought you hated me, Evelyn said. I do. Valentina descended the stairs, her movements graceful and predatory. But I hate my brother more right now, and watching you eviscerate him was almost worth the insanity of you marrying my father. Almost? Don't push it. Valentina sat beside her, close enough to talk, but far enough to maintain distance. Look, I don't know what kind of game you're playing. It's not a game. Everything in this family is a game. Valentina's voice held bitter knowledge. My father doesn't do anything without calculating every angle. If he's marrying you, there's a reason beyond revenge. Maybe he just wants to teach Damien a lesson. My father doesn't need a wife to teach lessons. He has other methods. Valentina studied her. So what's your real reason? And don't give me some bullshit about love or wanting to hurt Damien. I want the truth. Evelyn considered lying, then decided Valentina would see through it anyway. I wanted to stop feeling powerless, she said quietly. Your brother made me feel small, disposable, like I didn't matter. Your father offered me a way to take that power back. By becoming his wife. By becoming untouchable. Evelyn met her gaze. You said it yourself. Everything in this family is a game. Well, I'm playing now. Valentina's expression shifted into something calculating. You might actually survive this. Is that approval? It's acknowledgement. Valentina stood. But don't mistake it for friendship. I'm watching you. If you hurt my father or use him for personal gain, I'll make Damien's betrayal look gentle. Noted. Valentina started up the stairs, then paused. For what it's worth, my brother's an idiot. He had something real and destroyed it because he's too stupid to recognize value. She glanced back. Don't make the same mistake with my father. He might be ruthless, but at least he's honest about it. Then she disappeared down the hallway, leaving Evelyn alone with her thoughts. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparations Evelyn didn't understand. Roman's assistant, a terrifyingly efficient woman named Margaret, appeared at her door each morning with schedules, appointments, and instructions delivered in clipped professional tones. Dress fitting. 9 a.m. Meeting with the wedding planner. 11 a.m. Lunch with potential donors to Evelyn's nonprofit. 1 p.m. Security briefing. 3 p.m. The security briefing was the part that made everything real. Evelyn sat in a conference room she didn't know existed, surrounded by men in dark suits who looked like they ate danger for breakfast. The head of Roman security, a man named Victor, who had scars on his knuckles and murder in his eyes, walked her through protocols that sounded more appropriate for a war zone than a wedding. "You'll have 2 bodyguards with you at all times when you leave the estate," Victor said, clicking through a presentation on a massive screen. "Marcus and Chen. They're trained in executive protection and threat neutralization." "Threat neutralization," Evelyn repeated. "You mean killing people?" Victor's expression didn't change. "I mean protecting you from anyone who might want to use you as leverage against Mr. Bellini." "Who would want to do that?" "Business rivals, competing families. Anyone who sees you as the weakest link in Mr. Bellini's armor." Victor advanced the slide. "You'll wear this at all times." The screen showed a delicate bracelet, silver and elegant. "It's pretty," Evelyn said carefully. "It's a panic button. Press the clasp 3 times rapidly, and every security team member within a 5-mile radius will receive your GPS coordinates and converge on your location within 90 seconds. Evelyn's mouth went dry. "You're serious?" "Deadly serious." Victor leaned forward. "Miss Vaughn, I need you to understand something. The moment you marry Roman Bellini, you become a target. People will try to hurt you to hurt him. They'll try to kidnap you, blackmail you, kill you. My job is to make sure that doesn't happen, but I need you to follow protocols." "What protocols?" "Never leave the estate alone. Never deviate from planned routes. Never post your location on social media. Never accept food or drinks from anyone we haven't vetted. Never live a normal life," Evelyn interrupted. Victor's smile was grim. "Welcome to the Bellini family." That night, Evelyn lay in her enormous bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The bracelet sat on her nightstand, catching moonlight. She picked it up, feeling the weight of it, the reality of what she'd agreed to. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was survival. A soft knock on her door made her jump. "Yes?" The door opened. Roman stood in the hallway, still dressed in his suit despite the late hour. "You're awake. Can't sleep. Victor briefed you. It wasn't a question. He scared the hell out of me." "Good. Fear keeps you careful." Roman stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "May I?" Evelyn nodded, and he sat in the chair by the window, maintaining distance. Even at midnight in her bedroom, he looked controlled, composed. "Having second thoughts?" he asked. "About 1,000 of them. But you're still here. The contract—" "Forget the contract." Roman's voice softened slightly. "If you want out, say so now. I'll tear up the agreement and you can walk away. No retaliation, no consequences." Evelyn stared at him. "You said I couldn't break the contract." "I lied." His smile was thin. "I needed to know if you'd commit despite the fear. You did. That tells me you're serious about this arrangement, but I won't trap someone who genuinely wants to leave. So I can just go? If that's what you want." Evelyn looked at the bracelet in her hands, thought about her tiny apartment in Queens, her normal life, her safe, predictable existence that Damien had shattered with such casual cruelty. "What if I don't know what I want?" she asked quietly. "Then stay until you figure it out." Roman stood, moving to the door. "But understand something, Miss Vaughn. The moment we announce this marriage, there's no going back. The enemies I mentioned, they're real. The danger is real. Once you're publicly connected to me, leaving doesn't guarantee safety. So I'm damned either way. No, you're protected if you stay. If you leave, you're on your own." He paused at the threshold. "The wedding is in 4 days. Decide before then." After he left, Evelyn sat in the darkness holding the panic button bracelet, trying to understand how her life had spiraled so completely out of control. Her phone, which she'd finally turned back on, buzzed with a message. Not Damien this time. "Serena. Heard about the engagement. Guess you found an upgrade. Does Roman know you're just using him to make Damien jealous?" Evelyn's hand shook with rage. She typed out a response, deleted it, typed another, finally settled on 3 words. "Fuck off, Serena." Then she blocked the number and threw her phone across the room again. The next morning, Evelyn woke to shouting. She pulled on a robe and opened her door to find chaos in the hallway. Damien and Valentina stood outside Roman's study, screaming at each other while staff members tried desperately to pretend they couldn't hear. Your fault for bringing her here in the first place, Damien yelled. My fault? You're the idiot who cheated on her, Valentina shot back. I made a mistake. You made 100 mistakes. And now Dad's cleaning up your mess by marrying your ex-girlfriend. How does that feel, Damien? How does it feel to know you destroyed something so badly that your own father had to fix it? He's not fixing anything. He's punishing me. You deserve to be punished. Roman's study door opened. He stood there in shirt sleeves, looking tired in a way Evelyn had never seen before. Both of you, in my office, now. His voice held no room for argument. Valentina and Damien filed inside like chastised children. Roman's gaze found Evelyn standing in her doorway. You should get dressed, he said quietly. We have a meeting with your nonprofit board in 2 hours. What meeting? I'm making good on my promise. $5 million to start, but they'll want to meet me first. Evelyn's heart stopped. $5 million. We'll discuss terms in the car. Roman turned back to his children. Close the door. Valentina slammed it hard enough to rattle the frame. 2 hours later, Evelyn sat in a black SUV beside Roman, her hands trembling as they drove through Manhattan toward the nonprofit's offices. She'd changed into one of the professional outfits from her new closet, a charcoal gray suit that fit perfectly and probably cost more than she used to make in a month. Marcus sat in the front passenger seat, his eyes constantly scanning the street. Chen drove with the focused intensity of someone trained to spot threats. You're nervous, Roman observed. You're giving my organization $5 million. Of course I'm nervous. It's an investment. Your nonprofit does good work. I'm simply providing resources to expand it. Nothing's that simple with you. Roman's smile was faint. No. But in this case, my motivations are straightforward. You care about helping domestic violence survivors. I have money and influence. Combining those resources benefits everyone. Except your enemies. My enemies aren't your concern. They are if I'm wearing a panic button. Roman's expression shifted into something approving. You're learning. The nonprofit's office was a modest building in Brooklyn, a far cry from the Bellini estate's luxury. Evelyn's boss, a woman named Patricia, who dedicated her life to helping abused survivors, met them in the lobby with barely concealed shock. Evelyn, Patricia hugged her, then stepped back to study Roman with open suspicion. Mr. Bellini, thank you for coming. Thank you for seeing me. Roman's professional mask was flawless. Shall we? The meeting lasted an hour. Roman presented his proposal with ruthless efficiency, $5 million in initial funding, with potential for more based on program outcomes. He wanted quarterly reports, oversight on fund allocation, and representatives on the board. Patricia listened with the wariness of someone who dealt with wealthy donors before. And what do you want in return? Results. Roman leaned back in his chair. I want to see measurable impact. More women rescued from dangerous situations. More resources for survivors. More convictions of abusers. That's my only condition. Why? Patricia's question was blunt. You don't have a history of charitable giving, Mr. Bellini. Why this organization? Why now? Roman's gaze flickered to Evelyn. Because someone I respect cares deeply about this work. And I've learned that supporting the things people care about is often more valuable than the money itself. Patricia's expression softened slightly. She looked at Evelyn. Is this legitimate? Evelyn thought about the contract, the arrangement, the fact that her marriage to Roman was built on revenge disguised as strategy. Yes, she said, it's legitimate. Then we accept. Patricia extended her hand to Roman. Thank you, Mr. Bellini. They shook. Roman's smile was professional, but Evelyn caught something else in his eyes. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. On the drive back to the estate, Evelyn stared out the window watching the city blur past. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Yes, I did. Why? Roman was silent for a long moment. Because you signed a contract agreeing to marry me, despite knowing it would destroy your life as you knew it. The least I can do is make sure something good comes from this arrangement. $5 million is more than something good. It's a rounding error in my annual budget. He glanced at her. But for your organization, it's transformative. That's what matters. Evelyn didn't know what to say to that. Roman Bellini, Ruthless crime lord, Manhattan kingpin, the man newspapers called dangerous, had just given her nonprofit more money than they could have raised in a decade. Not for power, not for control, because she'd asked him to. "Thank you," she said softly. "Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see what comes next." The SUV turned onto the estate's private road. As they approached the gates, Evelyn saw something that made her blood run cold. Reporters. Dozens of them, crowded outside the gates with cameras and microphones, shouting questions at the security guards. "What?" Evelyn started. "Someone leaked the engagement," Roman said calmly. "Probably Serena or one of Damien's friends. It was inevitable." "You knew this would happen?" "I expected it, yes." Roman's expression hardened. "Which is why I need to know right now, Miss Vaughn. Are you in or are you out? Because the moment we drive through those gates, your face will be on every tabloid in the city. There's no hiding after that. No pretending this isn't real." The SUV slowed. Cameras flashed beyond the tinted windows. Reporters screamed questions Evelyn couldn't make out. Her phone buzzed. Message after message flooding in from old friends, colleagues, people she hadn't talked to in years. "Is it true? Are you really marrying Roman Bellini? What about Damien?" Evelyn looked at Roman, at his dark, calculating eyes and the face that gave away nothing. "If I say yes," she said slowly, "there's no going back. No. My life will never be normal again. No. I'll be a target for your enemies. Yes. And in 6 months, when the contract ends, I'll still be the woman who married Roman Bellini. That won't just disappear. No." Roman's gaze intensified. "That's the real cost of this arrangement. Not the danger, not the scrutiny, but the fact that you'll never be able to erase this choice. Whatever happens between us, whether we divorce quietly or the arrangement becomes something else, you'll always be connected to me, to this family, to this world." The cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters pressed against the gates. Evelyn thought about her apartment in Queens, about the life she'd built carefully, modestly, safely, about the person she'd been before Damien destroyed everything. That person was already gone. The girl who'd walked into the Bellini mansion 3 days ago had died the moment she saw Damien with Serena. The question now wasn't about getting that life back. It was about deciding who she wanted to become instead. "Drive through the gates," Evelyn said. Roman's expression shifted into something that might have been respect. He nodded to Chen. The SUV surged forward, gates opened, cameras exploded with light, and Evelyn Vaughn drove into her new life with her head up and her hands steady, even though her heart screamed that she was making the worst mistake of her life. The estate grounds swallowed them. The gates closed behind the SUV with a final decisive clang. No going back now. Roman's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression went cold. "What?" Evelyn asked. "We have a problem." He turned the phone toward her. The screen showed a news article. The headline made her stomach drop. "Bellini heir hospitalized after apparent overdose." Below it, a photo of Damien being loaded into an ambulance. "Oh my God!" Evelyn started. "It was deliberate," Roman said, his voice like ice. "He took just enough pills to require medical attention, but not enough to actually harm himself. Textbook manipulation." "How do you know?" "Because I know my son." Roman's jaw tightened. "He's gambling that you'll feel guilty and call off the engagement, that seeing him hurt will make you realize you still care." Evelyn stared at the photo. Damien on a stretcher, oxygen mask over his face, looking pale and broken. 24 hours ago, the image would have destroyed her. Now she just felt tired. "It won't work," she said quietly. "You're certain?" "He made his choice. I made mine." Evelyn handed the phone back. "When's the wedding?" Roman studied her for a long moment. Then his smile turned sharp and satisfied. 3 days. 3 days until Evelyn Vaughn became Evelyn Bellini. 3 days until she crossed a line she could never uncross. 3 days until the point of no return. The SUV pulled up to the mansion's entrance. Marcus opened her door, and Evelyn stepped out into afternoon sunlight that felt too bright, too normal for the catastrophe unfolding around her. Valentina stood on the steps, phone in hand, her expression unreadable. "Did you see?" she asked. Yes. And? Evelyn met her gaze. And nothing. The wedding is still happening. Something shifted in Valentina's expression. Not approval exactly, but acknowledgement. Good, she said, because the press is going to eat us alive for the next 72 hours, and I need to know you won't crack under pressure. I won't crack. We'll see. Valentina descended the steps. My father's PR team is setting up a statement. You'll need to approve it before it goes out. They'll want photos too, of you and Dad looking happy together. I can do that. Can you? Valentina's voice held challenge. Because pretending to be in love with my father while my brother's in the hospital is going to require Oscar-worthy acting. Evelyn's hands clenched into fists. I'm not pretending anything. Roman and I have an arrangement. We both know what this is. Do you? Valentina stepped closer. Because from where I'm standing, you're a girl who got her heart broken and made a reckless decision out of pain. That's not strength. That's desperation. Think what you want. I will. Valentina's smile was sharp. Just remember, when this all falls apart, and it will fall apart, you don't get to play victim. You walked into this knowing exactly what you were doing. She brushed past Evelyn and headed toward the garage, leaving her standing alone on the steps. Roman appeared beside her, his presence solid and grounding. She'll come around, he said. Will she? Eventually. Valentina tests everyone. It's how she determines whether they're worth trusting. And if I fail the test, you won't. Roman's hand came to rest on her lower back, a gesture that should have felt possessive, but instead felt almost protective. You're stronger than she realizes. Stronger than you realize. Evelyn wanted to believe him, but standing there in the sunlight with cameras flashing beyond the gates and Damien in a hospital bed and her entire world spiraling into chaos, she felt anything but strong. She felt terrified. And Roman Bellini was the only thing standing between her and complete destruction, which meant she was already in far deeper than the contract stipulated. 3 days until the wedding, 72 hours until the point of no return. And Evelyn had the sinking feeling that she'd already crossed that line the moment she signed her name on Roman's contract. There was no going back now, only forward, into the fire, and God help her, she hoped she'd survive the burn. The morning of the wedding rehearsal, Evelyn woke to silence that felt wrong. Too heavy, too complete, like the world had stopped breathing. She checked her phone. 6 a.m. 3 messages waiting. The first was from Margaret. Rehearsal at 2 p.m. Car leaves at 1:30. Dress appropriately. The second was from an unknown number. You're making a mistake. He's using you. The third was from the hospital where Damien had been taken 2 days ago. Patient released. Stable condition. Evelyn deleted the unknown message without responding and stared at the hospital notification. Damien was out, which meant he'd be at the estate, which meant she'd have to see him before the wedding. Perfect. She showered and dressed in black pants and a silk blouse from the endless closet Roman's assistant had stocked. Her hands shook as she fastened the panic button bracelet around her wrist. The weight of it had become familiar now, a constant reminder that her life had transformed into something requiring armed protection and emergency protocols. When she opened her bedroom door, Marcus was already waiting in the hallway. Silent, professional, armed. Morning, Miss Vaughn. Morning. Evelyn had stopped asking him not to call her that. In 2 days, she'd be Mrs. Bellini anyway. Is he back? Marcus didn't need to ask who she meant. Mr. Damien returned an hour ago. He's in the East Wing. And Roman? Mr. Bellini is in his study. He asked to see you when you woke up. Evelyn's stomach tightened. Roman never summoned her. Their interactions over the past 3 days had been carefully orchestrated. Meetings with wedding planners, photo sessions for the press, dinners where they made polite conversation and maintained appropriate distance. But he'd never asked to see her privately before. Something was wrong. She found Roman in his study, surrounded by papers and multiple phones, all buzzing with messages he ignored. He looked tired, actually tired, with shadows under his eyes and tension in his shoulders that his perfectly tailored suit couldn't hide. Close the door, he said, without looking up. Evelyn did. The click sounded too loud. We have a problem. Roman finally met her gaze, and what she saw there made her blood run cold. Not anger, something worse. Calculation mixed with barely controlled fury. What kind of problem? Sit down. Roman, sit. Down. She sat. Roman slid a manila folder across the desk. Evelyn opened it with trembling hands. Inside were photographs. Surveillance photos, grainy and time-stamped, showing Serena Hale meeting with men in expensive suits. Different locations, different dates, all within the past 6 months. I don't understand, Evelyn said slowly. Keep looking. She flipped through more photos. Serena entering a building Evelyn didn't recognize. Serena handing over what looked like documents. Serena accepting an envelope thick with what could only be cash. The final photo made Evelyn's heart stop. Serena standing beside a man in his 50s, silver-haired and sharp-featured, his hand possessively on her shoulder. Behind them, a sign. Moretti Construction. No, Evelyn whispered. Yes. Roman's voice was ice. Your best friend has been working for the Moretti family for the past 8 months. She seduced my son specifically to gain access to Bellini business operations. Every secret Damien told her, every piece of information he stupidly shared, went straight to my biggest rival. The room spun. Evelyn gripped the edge of the desk to steady herself. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's confirmed. My security team has been investigating since the night you found them together. I had my suspicions, but I needed proof before acting. Roman leaned back in his chair. Serena Hale isn't just an opportunistic friend. She's a plant, an operative, and Damien was too blinded by his own ego to see it. Does he know? Not yet. Roman's expression hardened. But he will. I'm telling him this afternoon, right before the rehearsal. I want him to understand exactly what his betrayal cost both of you. Evelyn's mind raced. Serena, her best friend since college, the girl who'd helped her move apartments and celebrated her promotions and held her when she cried. All of it fake. All of it strategy. How long have you known? Her voice came out hollow. 2 days. 2 days? Evelyn's laugh was sharp and broken. You've known for 2 days that my entire life was infiltrated by someone working for your enemies, and you didn't tell me? I was verifying Bullshit. She stood abruptly. You were calculating, deciding how to use this information to your advantage. Did it even occur to you that I deserve to know? I'm telling you now. Now. The morning of our wedding rehearsal, hours before I'm supposed to stand in front of people and pretend this arrangement is anything other than a calculated revenge plot. Her hands shook with rage. What else haven't you told me, Roman? What other lies am I living? I haven't lied to you. You've omitted, which is the same damn thing. Evelyn grabbed the folder. I want everything. Every piece of information your security team gathered, every photo, every recording, every shred of evidence. I want to know exactly how deep this goes. Evelyn, don't. She held up her hand. Don't try to manage me right now. You don't get to decide what I can handle. That's not how this works. Roman studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled another folder from his desk drawer and slid it across. Everything's in there. But I'm warning you, it's worse than you think. Evelyn grabbed the folder and left before he could say anything else. She made it to her room before her legs gave out. She sat on the floor, back against the door, and opened the second folder. The contents destroyed her. Transcripts of phone calls between Serena and someone identified only as M, presumably Moretti. Dates, times, detailed discussions about Bellini business operations, shipping schedules, real estate deals, security protocols. But it was the final transcript that made bile rise in Evelyn's throat. M. And the Vaughn girl? She still doesn't suspect? Serena. No, she's pathetically trusting, thinks we're best friends. M. Good. Keep her close. If Damien proposes, we'll need her for the long game. Serena. He won't propose. He's already bored with her. Give it another month and he'll move on. M. Make sure he moves on to you. We need someone inside the family. Serena. Already working on it. Damien's easy. Compliment his ego, laugh at his jokes, spread your legs. Men like him are predictable. The transcript was dated 4 months ago. A month before Damien started pulling away. 6 weeks before Evelyn found them together. Everything had been orchestrated. Her relationship. The betrayal. Even her discovery of them together that night. Serena's cruel satisfaction hadn't been about winning Damien. It had been about destroying Evelyn's connection to the Bellini family before it could become useful. Except Serena hadn't anticipated Roman. Evelyn sat on the floor clutching transcripts of her best friend plotting her destruction and laughed until she cried. Then she cried until she couldn't breathe. Then she stopped feeling anything at all. A soft knock interrupted the emptiness. "Go away," Evelyn said. The door opened anyway. Valentina stepped inside, took one look at Evelyn surrounded by scattered papers, and closed the door behind her. "Dad told you." "Yeah." "About Serena working for the Morettis." "Yeah." Valentina sat on the floor beside her, close enough to touch, but respecting the space between them. "It's fucked up. Understatement of the century. Damien's losing his mind downstairs. Dad just told him everything. I've never seen him that destroyed." Valentina picked up one of the transcripts, scanned it, and her expression went cold. "Jesus, she really played all of you." "She played me." Evelyn's voice was dead. "Damien was just collateral damage. Don't make excuses for my brother. He still cheated on you. Because Serena manipulated him into it. Because she targeted him specifically to hurt me and access your family." Evelyn laughed bitterly. 6 months I blamed him. 6 months I thought he was weak and selfish and cruel. Turns out he was just a pawn. He's still responsible for his choices. Is he? Evelyn gestured at the papers. How much choice did any of us have? Serena controlled everything. She picked Damien. She seduced him. She made sure I'd find them together. She destroyed my life as strategy. So what are you going to do about it? Evelyn looked at Valentina, really looked at her. The girl was 18, barely an adult, but her eyes held knowledge decades older. She'd grown up in this world of manipulation and betrayal. It was her normal. I don't know, Evelyn admitted. Well, you better figure it out fast, because the rehearsal starts in 6 hours, and every guest will be watching to see if you crack. Valentina stood, offering her hand. Come on, get up. Why? Because lying on the floor feeling sorry for yourself won't change anything, but destroying the people who tried to destroy you will. Evelyn took her hand and let Valentina pull her up. You sound like your father. I am my father's daughter. Valentina's smile was sharp. And right now, you need to be his wife, which means you need to get your shit together and show the Moretti family that they picked the wrong target. How? By marrying Roman tomorrow and becoming untouchable. Valentina headed for the door. The Morettis wanted to use you as leverage. Instead, you're about to become the one thing they can't touch. That's not defeat. That's winning. After Valentina left, Evelyn stood in her enormous bedroom staring at her reflection in the floor-length mirror. The girl looking back at her was a stranger. Expensive clothes, perfect hair, dead eyes. She looked like she belonged in the Bellini family. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like permission. The rehearsal took place in the estate's garden, transformed into something from a fairy tale. White roses everywhere. String lights wrapped around ancient trees. A marble aisle leading to an arch covered in flowers that probably cost more than Evelyn's yearly salary. Guests mingled with champagne glasses, family friends, business associates, politicians whose faces Evelyn recognized from news broadcasts. Everyone dressed in expensive casual wear that still screamed wealth, and everyone stared at her. Evelyn walked through the garden with her head up, Marcus and Chen flanking her like shadows. She wore a white sundress that Margaret had selected, simple and elegant and appropriate for a bride-to-be. The panic button bracelet caught sunlight. Roman found her near the rose garden. He'd changed into charcoal slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Casual for him, but still controlled. Still dangerous. How are you holding up? He asked quietly. I'm here, aren't I? That's not an answer. Evelyn met his gaze. I read everything. Every transcript, every photo, every piece of evidence your team collected. And I understand now why you waited to tell me. If you'd shown me this 3 days ago, I would have run. I wasn't ready to know how deep the betrayal went. Something shifted in Roman's expression. You're ready now. I don't have a choice. She looked around the garden at all the people pretending not to watch them. This is my life now. These are the rules. I either learn to play the game or I get destroyed by people who are better at it than me. You're learning fast. I had good teachers. Evelyn's smile was cold. Where's Damien? Inside. He's not taking the news well. I want to see him. Roman's eyes narrowed. Why? Because I need to know if he knew. If he was part of it or just another victim. Does it matter? Yes. Evelyn's voice hardened. Because if he knew Serena was using him to hurt me, then he's an enemy. But if he didn't know, if he was manipulated same as me, then he's just collateral damage, and I need to know which one before I marry his father tomorrow. Roman studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. He's in the library, East Wing, second floor. But Evelyn? What? Don't let him convince you to walk away. Whatever he says, whatever he promises, remember that his weakness is what allowed this to happen. Serena targeted him because he was easy to manipulate. That hasn't changed. Evelyn didn't respond. She just turned and walked toward the mansion, her bodyguards trailing behind. She found Damien exactly where Roman said he'd be. The library was all dark wood and leather chairs, books lining walls that stretched to vaulted ceilings. Damien sat in a chair by the window, staring at nothing, a half-empty whiskey bottle on the table beside him. He looked wrecked. Worse than when she'd found him with Serena. Worse than when he'd overdosed. He looked hollowed out, like someone had reached inside and ripped out everything essential. Evie. His voice cracked when he saw her. Don't call me that. I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. Did you know? She crossed her arms. Did you know Serena was working for the Morettis? No. Damien stood, nearly knocking over the whiskey bottle. God, no. I swear, I had no idea. I thought she actually wanted me. I thought you were special enough to deserve two women fighting over you. His face crumpled. I was an idiot. Yes, you were. Evelyn moved closer. But were you a traitor? Did you give Serena information knowing she'd pass it to your father's enemies? No, never. I would never betray my family. But you betrayed me. Damien flinched. That's different. Is it? Evelyn's laugh was sharp. You chose Serena over me. You gave her access to your life, your family, your business. You made me the outsider while elevating a spy into your inner circle. How is that not betrayal? I didn't know she was a spy. You didn't care enough to question it. You didn't care enough to protect me. You just took what you wanted without considering consequences. Evelyn stepped close enough to see the broken blood vessels in his eyes. Serena didn't destroy us, Damien. You did. She just took advantage of your selfishness. I love you. Tears ran down his face. I know I fucked up, but I love you. We can fix this. We can start over. No, please. I'm marrying your father tomorrow. Evelyn's voice was steel. That's not changing. What I need to know is whether you're going to accept it or cause problems. Damien stared at her like she'd slapped him. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life. He's using you to punish me. Maybe. Or maybe I'm using him to survive in a world that tried to destroy me. Evelyn tilted her head. Does it matter? Of course it matters. You're marrying my father out of revenge. I'm marrying your father because he offered me something you never did. Protection, honesty, respect. She watched Damien crumble with each word. He told me the truth about his world, about the danger, the enemies, the cost of being connected to the Bellini name. You hid all of that behind charm and expensive dinners. He treated me like an adult. You treated me like a toy. That's not fair. Fair? Evelyn's control snapped. You want to talk about fair? You spent 6 months fucking my best friend while I planned a future with you. You let her destroy my trust, my friendship, my sense of reality. And when I caught you, you didn't even have the decency to lie. You just confirmed that everything I believed was fantasy. I was going to end it with Serena. When? After another 6 months? After she'd extracted every piece of useful information and discarded you? Or after I'd invested even more of myself in a relationship that was rotten from the start? Damien reached for her. She stepped back. Don't touch me. Don't apologize. Don't make this about your guilt or your regret. Evelyn's voice dropped to something dangerous. What I need from you is simple. Tomorrow, I'm marrying Roman. You will attend the wedding. You will behave appropriately. You will not cause a scene, and afterward, you will accept that I am no longer yours to claim or save or destroy. Can you do that? You're asking me to watch you marry my father. I'm asking you to face consequences for once in your privileged life. The library door opened. Roman stepped inside, his presence filling the space with quiet authority. "Time to go," he said to Evelyn. Then to Damien, "Pull yourself together. Guests are asking questions." Damien's hands clenched into fists. "You planned this. All of it. You knew about Serena and you let it happen so you could swoop in and play savior." "I didn't know about Serena until 2 days ago." Roman's voice was ice. "But you're right about one thing. I did see an opportunity in your destruction. The difference between us is that I don't apologize for recognizing value when it's discarded. She's not a business asset. No, she's a woman who deserves better than a son who treats her like property." Roman moved to Evelyn's side. "The rehearsal starts in 20 minutes. Be there or don't. Your choice." He guided Evelyn toward the door. She let him, grateful for the solid presence beside her when her legs felt like they might give out. Behind them, Damien's voice broke. "I loved her first." Roman paused. "No. You wanted her first. There's a difference." Then they were gone, leaving Damien alone in the library with his whiskey and his regrets. The rehearsal was a nightmare dressed in white roses and champagne toasts. Evelyn walked through the ceremony like an automaton, hitting her marks, saying her lines, smiling for photographs. Roman stayed close, his hand on her lower back, guiding her through social interactions with people whose names she immediately forgot. Politicians praised the union. Business associates offered congratulations that sounded like threats. Family friends whispered behind perfectly manicured hands. And through it all, Damien stood at the back of the garden, watching with dead eyes. Valentina appeared beside Evelyn during a rare moment alone. "You're doing great. I feel like I'm going to vomit. Welcome to high society." Valentina handed her a glass of champagne. "Drink this. It helps." "I don't drink." "You do now." Evelyn took a small sip. The bubbles burned. "Your brother looks like he wants to burn everything down. He'll get over it. Or he won't. Either way, not your problem anymore." Valentina's gaze swept the garden. "You should know, the Moretti family sent representatives. Third cousin twice removed, but still, they're watching." Evelyn's blood ran cold. "Where?" "Don't look. Gray suit near the fountain, with the blonde woman who's trying too hard to look bored." Valentina's smile was sharp. "They want to see if you'll crack. If this wedding is real or just theater." "What do you think it is?" "Does it matter?" Valentina echoed Evelyn's earlier words back to her. "Real or fake, you're still marrying into the most dangerous family in Manhattan. The Morettis need to understand that you're not a weakness they can exploit." "So what do I do?" "You smile. You stand beside my father like you belong there. And you make it very clear that trying to hurt you will cost them everything." Before Evelyn could respond, Roman appeared with 2 men in expensive suits. "Evelyn, I'd like you to meet Councilman Rodriguez and State Senator Chen." The next hour blurred into meaningless small talk and political posturing. Evelyn smiled until her face hurt, nodded at appropriate moments, and let Roman guide her through conversations about city development and zoning regulations that barely made sense. But she was learning, watching how Roman controlled rooms without raising his voice, how he made promises that sounded like favors but were actually transactions, how he turned every conversation into leverage. This was power, not the loud, obvious kind, but the quiet, insidious kind that shaped cities from the shadows. And tomorrow, she'd be married to the man who'd mastered it. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like armor. The rehearsal ended as sunset painted the garden gold. Guests began filtering toward their cars, promising to return tomorrow for the real ceremony. Evelyn stood beside Roman, waving goodbye to people she didn't know, maintaining the perfect facade. "You did well," Roman said quietly when they were finally alone. "I feel like I've been performing for hours." "You have been. Welcome to my world." He turned to face her fully. "Are you having second thoughts?" Evelyn looked at him. Really looked at him. Roman Bellini was a dangerous man. A man who'd built an empire through methods she probably didn't want to understand. A man who controlled politicians and crushed rivals and commanded loyalty through fear. But he'd also been honest with her from the start. He'd never pretended to be something he wasn't. He'd offered her a transaction and honored every term, which was more than anyone else in her life had done. "No," she said, "no second thoughts." Even after learning about Serena, about how deep the manipulation went? Especially after that. Evelyn's voice hardened. The Morettis tried to destroy me without me even knowing I was a target. They used my best friend. They weaponized my trust. But they made one mistake. What's that? They assumed I'd break. She met his gaze. Tomorrow, I'm marrying you. And the day after that, I want to know everything about the Moretti family. Their business, their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities. Roman's expression shifted into something approving and dangerous in equal measure. Why? Because they came after me. They targeted someone they thought was weak and disposable. And I want them to understand that was a catastrophic miscalculation. Roman's smile was predatory. Now you're thinking like a Bellini. Before Evelyn could respond, Marcus appeared, his expression tense. Sir, we have a situation. What kind of situation? Security breach. Someone tried to access the estate through the north gate. Guards subdued them, but you should see who it is. Roman's jaw tightened. Show me. They followed Marcus to the security office, a room filled with monitors and armed personnel. On the central screen, Evelyn saw the captured intruder, Serena Hale. She sat in a concrete room, handcuffed to a chair, her designer clothes torn and her perfect makeup smeared. But her expression wasn't fear, it was rage. She was carrying this. Victor handed Roman a manila envelope. Roman opened it. Inside were photographs. Surveillance photos of Evelyn and Roman together over the past week. Timestamps, locations, detailed notes about their schedule. She was planning something, Victor said quietly. We just don't know what yet. Roman's expression went cold as winter. Bring her to the interrogation room. I want to know everything. Sir, now. Victor nodded and left. Roman turned to Evelyn, and what she saw in his eyes made her breath catch. Not just anger, murderous intent. You should go to your room, he said softly. No. Evelyn, no. She stepped closer. Serena destroyed my life. She pretended to be my friend while plotting my destruction. I deserve to hear what she has to say. This won't be pleasant. Good. I'm done with pleasant. Evelyn's hands clenched into fists. She's here because of me. Whatever she's planning, I'm the target, which means I have every right to be in that room when you question her. Roman studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Stay behind me. Don't speak unless I tell you to. And if things escalate, they will escalate. When they do, trust that I'll handle it. They walked through corridors Evelyn had never seen before, deeper into the estate past locked doors and security checkpoints, until they reached a room that looked like it belonged in a different building entirely. Concrete walls. Steel table. No windows. Serena sat in the center, still handcuffed, but her composure had returned. When she saw Evelyn, her smile was venomous. There's the blushing bride! Serena's laugh echoed off concrete. Came to gloat? Roman gestured for Evelyn to stay by the door. Then he moved to the table, calm and controlled, and sat across from Serena. Why are you here? His voice was conversational, almost pleasant. I wanted to wish the happy couple well. Try again. Serena's smile widened. You really think marrying her will protect you? You think making Evelyn Vaughn into Evelyn Bellini will stop what's coming? What's coming? Consequences. Serena leaned forward as far as the handcuffs allowed. You've made enemies, Roman, powerful ones, and they're tired of your empire sitting on territory they want. Tomorrow's wedding? It's not a celebration. It's a declaration of war. Against whom? Everyone who's been waiting for you to show weakness. Serena's gaze slid to Evelyn. And she's your weakness now. The moment you marry her, she becomes a target. Not just for the Morettis, for every family that wants to see you fall. Roman's expression didn't change. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Serena smiled. But here's what I'm offering. Call off the wedding. Let Evelyn go. And maybe, the people I work for will let you keep breathing. The temperature in the room dropped. Roman stood slowly, moved around the table, leaned down until he was inches from Serena's face. Let me tell you what's going to happen, he said softly. Tomorrow, I'm marrying Evelyn. The day after that, I'm going to dismantle the Moretti family operation piece by piece until there's nothing left but rubble and regret. And you're going to watch it happen from a cell where no one will ever find you. Serena's smile faltered. You made a mistake coming here, Roman continued. You thought you could threaten me, intimidate me into abandoning someone under my protection. But what you don't understand is that I've been waiting for the Morettis to make this move. You've given me exactly what I needed. What's that? Justification. Roman straightened, nodded to Victor, who appeared in the doorway with two armed guards, take her to the holding facility. No visitors, no phone calls, no contact with anyone until I decide what to do with her. You can't keep me here, Serena started. I can do whatever I want. This is my property. You trespassed. You threatened my family. That makes you mine. Roman's smile was cold. Welcome to the Bellini Empire, Miss Hale. I hope you enjoy your stay. They dragged her out screaming. The door slammed shut. Evelyn stood frozen by the wall, her heart hammering. She'd just watched Roman Bellini transform from controlled businessman into something terrifying, something capable of making people disappear without remorse. And tomorrow, she was marrying him. Roman turned to face her. Now you see who I really am. Evelyn's voice came out steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. I've always seen who you are. And you still want to go through with tomorrow? She thought about Serena's threats, about the Moretti family waiting to use her as leverage, about the danger she was walking into with open eyes. Then she thought about the girl she'd been a week ago, naive, trusting, easily destroyed. That girl was dead, and the woman standing in this concrete room had been forged in betrayal and rage. Yes, Evelyn said, I still want to marry you. Roman crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. Not romantic, not gentle, but fierce and possessive, and absolutely certain. Then we do this together, he said against her hair, and God help anyone who tries to stop us. Evelyn held on to him like he was the only solid thing in a world spinning out of control, because maybe he was. And tomorrow there would be no turning back, for either of them. Evelyn didn't sleep the night before her wedding. She lay in the massive bed staring at shadows on the ceiling while her mind replayed Serena's words on an endless loop. Tomorrow's wedding isn't a celebration, it's a declaration of war. At 4 in the morning, she gave up on rest and moved to the window. Manhattan stretched out before her, a glittering ocean of lights and steel. Somewhere in that city, the Moretti family was planning something. Somewhere, enemies she'd never met were preparing to use her as leverage against Roman. And in less than 12 hours, she'd be walking down an aisle toward a man who'd just imprisoned someone in his basement without blinking. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Last chance. Walk away before you become collateral damage. Evelyn deleted it without responding. They thought she was weak, breakable, a pretty girl who'd stumbled into a world she didn't understand. They were wrong. She dressed in running clothes and slipped out of her room. Marcus was already awake, stationed in the hallway like he never slept. Going somewhere, Miss Vaughn? The gym. I need to move. I'll accompany you. The estate's gym was in the basement, next to the wine cellar, and what Evelyn suspected was the interrogation facility where Serena was being held. She tried not to think about that as she climbed onto a treadmill and ran until her lungs burned and her legs screamed. She was still running when Roman appeared. He wore gray sweatpants and a black t-shirt, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. His hair was messy, his eyes were tired. He looked like a man who'd spent the night planning for war instead of a wedding. Couldn't sleep? He asked, moving to the treadmill beside hers. No. Evelyn didn't slow down. You? I stopped sleeping years ago. He started his own run, matching her pace easily. Victor briefed me on the security protocols for today. We're treating this like a hostile event. Is that what it is? Yes. No hesitation. The Morettis know we have Serena. They'll either try to extract her or make a move during the ceremony. Either way, we're ready. Evelyn's heart hammered, and not just from the running. Maybe we should postpone. No. Roman's voice was steel. Postponing shows weakness. We proceed as planned and dare them to make a move. You're using our wedding as bait. I'm using our wedding to send a message. He glanced at her. That I will not be intimidated. That I will protect what's mine. That anyone who threatens my family will face consequences. I'm not yours yet. You will be in 12 hours. They ran in silence for several minutes. Sweat dripped down Evelyn's spine. Her muscles ached, but the physical pain felt good, real, something she could control when everything else was spinning into chaos. "Are you afraid?" Roman asked quietly. Evelyn thought about lying, then decided he deserved honesty. "Terrified." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." He slowed to a walk, breathing hard. "But don't let it paralyze you. Today you'll stand beside me in front of everyone who matters in this city. You'll wear my ring, you'll take my name, and you'll show the Morettis that they picked the wrong target. And if they attack during the ceremony, then we fight." Roman stopped completely, turning to face her. "I won't lie to you, Evelyn. Today could go very wrong. But I've prepared for every scenario. You'll have protection, you'll have backup, and you'll have me." Evelyn stopped running, stepped off the treadmill on shaking legs. "Why are you doing this, really? Not the revenge against Damien, not the strategic marriage. Why are you putting yourself and your family at risk for someone you barely know?" Roman was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he moved closer, close enough that she could see the scars on his knuckles and the lines around his eyes that came from decades of violence. "Because you remind me of someone," he said softly. "A long time ago, I knew a woman who walked away from humiliation with her head up, who refused to break even when everything around her shattered. She died before I could protect her properly, before I understood what strength like that was worth." "Your wife?" "No. My sister." Roman's expression flickered with old pain. "Isabella was nothing like you. But my sister Elena, she had your fire, your refusal to be diminished. I watched her burn out trying to survive in this world without proper protection. I won't make that mistake again." Evelyn's throat tightened. "I'm not your sister." "No. You're stronger. Elena eventually broke. You haven't." He reached out and tucked a strand of sweat-dampened hair behind her ear, the gesture unexpectedly gentle. "So yes, this started as strategy, but it's become something else. You've become someone worth protecting, not because of Damien or revenge or contracts, but because you deserve to survive what this world throws at you." Before Evelyn could respond, Victor burst into the gym, his expression grim. "We have a problem." Roman's entire demeanor shifted back to business. "What kind?" "Moretti sent a message. They want to negotiate Serena's release. They're offering a substantial payment." "Tell them no." "Sir, the amount they're offering, I don't care if they're offering the entire city. The answer is no." Roman's voice was ice. "Serena Hale infiltrated my family. She weaponized my son and targeted my future wife. There is no amount of money that makes that acceptable." Victor nodded. "They said if we refuse, there will be consequences." "Let them come." Roman moved toward the door. "Double security for the ceremony. I want armed personnel at every entrance. I want snipers on the roof. I want explosives detection at the gates. Treat this like a presidential visit." "Already done, sir." "Then make sure everyone understands the rules. Anyone who threatens this wedding or anyone in attendance will be dealt with permanently. No warnings, no mercy." Victor left. Roman turned back to Evelyn. "You should get ready. Margaret will be at your room in 2 hours with hair and makeup." "Roman, I know what you're going to say, that this is too dangerous, that we should call it off, that I'm putting you at risk for my ego." He moved closer. "But here's the truth. You're already at risk. The moment Serena involved you in the Moretti's plans, you became a target. Marrying me doesn't change that. It just gives you the protection to survive it. Or it makes me an even bigger target." "Yes, but at least you'll have an army behind you." His hand came to rest on her shoulder. "I'm not asking you to be fearless. I'm asking you to be smart. Stay close to your security, follow protocols, and trust that I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe." Evelyn looked into his dark, dangerous eyes and saw absolute certainty. Roman Bellini meant every word. He would burn the world down before letting anyone harm her. The thought should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like the only solid ground in a world made of quicksand. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." The next 6 hours passed in a blur of preparation that felt more like suiting up for battle than getting ready for a wedding. Margaret arrived with the team of stylists who transformed Evelyn's bedroom into a war room of beauty. Hair pulled into an elegant updo, makeup applied with precision. The wedding dress, A custom creation in ivory silk that probably cost more than her car fitted perfectly, hugging her curves before flowing into a train that seemed to go on forever. When they finally stepped back, Evelyn barely recognized herself in the mirror. She looked like a queen, or a sacrifice. Beautiful, Margaret said, her professional mask slipping slightly into genuine emotion. Mr. Bellini will be pleased. Valentina appeared in the doorway, dressed in a deep emerald bridesmaid dress that made her look older than 18. Her eyes widened when she saw Evelyn. Holy shit! Language, Margaret chided. No, seriously, holy shit! Valentina circled Evelyn slowly. You look lethal. That's the goal. Evelyn adjusted the panic button bracelet, now decorated with diamonds to match her jewelry. Where's Roman? Getting ready. Also coordinating security for the apocalypse you two are about to trigger. Valentina's smile was sharp. The Moretti sent another message. They're promising significant disruption if we don't release Serena. What does that mean? It means they're planning something, and we have about 2 hours to figure out what, before it happens. Valentina handed her a small earpiece. Put this in. It's connected to our security network. If anything goes wrong, you'll hear it first. Evelyn inserted the earpiece and immediately heard the chatter of security teams coordinating positions. Victor's voice cut through periodically, calm and controlled, directing personnel like a general commanding troops. This wasn't a wedding. This was a military operation. Are you ready? Valentina asked quietly. Evelyn looked at herself in the mirror one last time. The girl who'd walked into the Bellini mansion a week ago was gone. The woman looking back at her had been forged in betrayal and rage and fear. She'd been broken and rebuilt into something harder, something capable of surviving in a world that ate the weak. Yes, she said, I'm ready. They descended to the main floor where guests were already gathering in the garden. Through the windows, Evelyn could see the transformation was complete. White roses everywhere, string lights glowing in the afternoon sun, rows of chairs filled with Manhattan's elite, politicians, business magnates, society figures who smiled with their mouths but calculated with their eyes. And somewhere among them, potential threats. Marcus and Chen flanked her as she moved toward the holding area where she'd wait for the ceremony to begin. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The earpiece crackled with updates. North perimeter clear. East gate secure. Rooftop teams in position. Victor's voice. All units, we have visual confirmation of Moretti family members entering through the main gate. Stay alert. Evelyn's breath caught. They were here. The people who tried to destroy her were walking into her wedding like guests instead of enemies. Steady, Valentina murmured beside her. Dad expected this. He invited them specifically to send a message. What message? That he's not afraid of them. That he'll marry you right in front of their faces and dare them to make a move. The music started. Classical strings playing something beautiful and sad. Through the window, Evelyn saw guests standing, turning toward the aisle. Roman appeared at the altar in a black tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped out of old Hollywood, dangerous and elegant in equal measure. His expression was calm, controlled. But Evelyn could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes scanned the crowd for threats. That's your cue, Margaret said softly. Evelyn took a deep breath. The double doors to the garden opened, and she stepped into the sunlight. Every head turned, every eye locked onto her. The crowd murmured with appreciation and speculation and barely concealed judgment. Evelyn kept her gaze forward, focused on Roman waiting for her at the altar. She walked down the aisle with Marcus and Chen flanking her at a discreet distance, their presence a reminder that this beautiful ceremony was also a powder keg waiting to explode. Halfway down the aisle, she saw them. The Moretti family. 3 men in expensive suits sitting in the back row watching with predatory interest. One of them, silver-haired and sharp-featured, smiled when their eyes met. Not friendly, threatening. Evelyn lifted her chin and kept walking. She reached the altar. Roman extended his hand. She took it, feeling the calluses on his palm, the strength in his grip. You look beautiful, he murmured. You look terrified. His smile was quick and genuine. I am. The officiant began speaking, standard wedding ceremony words that felt surreal given the circumstances. Evelyn barely heard them. She was too focused on the earpiece crackling with security updates. Movement on the east perimeter. False alarm, catering staff. Moretti representatives requesting to speak with Mr. Bellini after the ceremony. Victor's voice. Request denied. No exceptions. The ceremony continued. Vows were spoken. Rings exchanged. Evelyn's hands trembled as Roman slid the platinum band onto her finger, sealing the contract that would tie them together for 6 months. Or longer. She was starting to suspect it would be longer. You may kiss the bride, the officiant announced. Roman pulled her close and kissed her in front of everyone. Not for show, not for the cameras, but like he meant it. Like she was something precious he'd finally claimed. When they broke apart, applause rippled through the crowd. Evelyn Vaughn was dead. Long live Evelyn Bellini. The receiving line was torture. Guest after guest offering congratulations that felt hollow. Politicians making promises, business associates sizing her up. The Moretti representatives approaching with smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Congratulations, the silver-haired man said, extending his hand to Roman. Beautiful ceremony. Roman didn't take his hand. Thank you for attending, Mr. Moretti. Now leave my property. The temperature dropped. Moretti's smile widened. Is that any way to treat a guest? You're not a guest. You're a threat that I'm tolerating out of professional courtesy. That courtesy expires in 60 seconds. Roman, Moretti said softly, you're making a mistake holding Serena. She's valuable to certain parties, parties who don't appreciate interference. She infiltrated my family. She stays where she is. Then we have a problem. No. Roman's voice turned to steel. You have a problem. Because in approximately 30 seconds, my security team will escort you off this property. And if you ever threaten my family again, if you so much as look at my wife the wrong way, I will dismantle your organization brick by brick until there's nothing left. Moretti's expression hardened. You're declaring war over a girl? I'm declaring war over my wife. There's a difference. Security appeared. Large men in dark suits who surrounded the Moretti representatives like wolves circling prey. Moretti looked at Evelyn, and what she saw in his eyes made her blood freeze. Enjoy the honeymoon, Mrs. Bellini. I hope it lasts. Then they were gone, escorted through the garden toward the gates. Evelyn's heart hammered. That was a threat. Yes. Roman's hand tightened on hers, which means we need to move to phase 2. What's phase 2? Before he could answer, the earpiece exploded with frantic chatter. Breach at the south gate. Multiple vehicles approaching fast. Armed individuals. Victor's voice cut through the chaos. Code red. I repeat, code red. All personnel to defensive positions. Get the principals to the safe room now. Roman grabbed Evelyn's hand. Run. They ran. Marcus and Chen materialized on either side, weapons drawn. The garden erupted into chaos, guests screaming, security teams shouting, and beneath it all, the sound that made Evelyn's blood turn to ice, gunfire. The first shot shattered the peaceful ceremony like broken glass. Bullets tore through flower arrangements. Windows exploded. Guests dove for cover as armed men in black tactical gear swarmed through the gates. Move! Marcus shoved Evelyn forward, his body shielding hers. They ran toward the mansion. Behind them, Roman security engaged the attackers in a firefight that sounded like the world ending. Evelyn's wedding dress tangled around her legs. She kicked off her heels and ran barefoot across marble floors slick with panic. Roman yanked her into a hallway she'd never seen before. A hidden door opened in the wall panel. Steel stairs descended into darkness. Down, now! They descended into the basement. Emergency lights flickered. The sounds of battle echoed from above. Gunfire, shouting, breaking glass. The safe room was at the bottom of the stairs. Reinforced steel walls, monitors showing security feeds, weapons mounted on the walls. It looked like a bunker. Valentina was already there, along with several security personnel. Her emerald dress was torn. Blood streaked her arm. Val, Roman started. I'm fine. It's not mine. She grabbed a handgun from the wall rack, checking the magazine with practiced efficiency. They came in through 3 separate entry points simultaneously. Professional hit squad. At least 15 hostiles. Roman moved to the monitors, his expression cold as death. Where's Damien? East wing, barricaded with 2 guards. The guests? Most evacuated through the north exit. Some took cover in the ballroom. We have teams protecting them. Evelyn stared at the monitors showing her wedding being transformed into a war zone. Bodies on the ground. She couldn't tell if they were security or attackers. Fire spreading through one of the gardens. Black-clad figures moving through the mansion with military precision. "This is because of me," she whispered. "This is because of Serena," Roman corrected. "The Morettis want her back, and they're willing to burn everything down to get her." "Then give her to them." "No." Roman spun to face her. "The moment I cave to this pressure, I show weakness. Every family in this city will test me. Every enemy will push harder. I don't negotiate with terrorists, and I sure as hell don't negotiate with people who attack my home during my wedding." Victor's voice crackled through the intercom. "Sir, we've pushed them back to the outer perimeter, but they're regrouping. They'll hit us again within 10 minutes. "How many casualties?" 3 guards injured. No fatalities on our side yet. 6 hostiles down. The rest retreated. "Evelyn's security detail?" "Marcus took a hit to the vest. He's operational. Chen is securing the north corridor." Evelyn's hands shook. Marcus had been shot protecting her. People were bleeding because she'd agreed to this insane wedding. "We need to end this," she said. Roman turned to her. "How?" "Give me a phone. Let me talk to Moretti." "Absolutely not. Listen to me." Evelyn moved closer. "He wants Serena. He thinks I'm your weakness. Let me use that. Let me negotiate." "You don't negotiate with men like Moretti. You destroy them." "And how many people die while you're destroying them?" Evelyn gestured at the monitors. "Your security team? Your guests? Your family?" She met his gaze. "Let me try. What's the worst that happens?" "He uses you as leverage. He's already doing that. At least this way, I control the conversation." Roman's jaw clenched. For a long moment, he just stared at her, and Evelyn could see the war happening behind his eyes. Control versus trust. Strategy versus desperation. Finally, he pulled out his phone and dialed. It rang twice before Moretti answered. "I was wondering when you'd call." Moretti's voice was smooth, satisfied. "Ready to negotiate?" "Put it on speaker," Evelyn said. Roman did. "Mr. Moretti, this is Evelyn Bellini." Her voice came out steady, despite the terror coursing through her veins. "I want to talk about Serena." Silence. Then Moretti laughed. "The bride wants to negotiate. How delightful." "I want this to stop. The shooting, the violence, all of it. Tell me what it takes to end this." "You know what it takes. Release Serena, unharmed, immediately." "And then?" "And then we leave. No retaliation. No further attacks. You get your peaceful wedding, and we get what we came for." "How do I know you'll keep your word?" "You don't. But right now I have 15 armed men surrounding your mansion and reinforcements 10 minutes away. Your security is good, but they're not infinite. Eventually, we'll overwhelm them. People will die, maybe even people you care about." He paused. "Or you could release Serena now and avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Your choice, Mrs. Bellini." Evelyn looked at Roman. His expression was stone, giving away nothing. "I need 5 minutes," she said. "You have 3. The line went dead. Evelyn turned to Roman. "We have to let her go." "No. People are going to die. People are already dying. That's what happens in this world. You don't get to be squeamish about it now." "I'm not being squeamish. I'm being practical." Her voice rose. "Serena isn't worth this. She's not worth your security team getting killed. She's not worth burning down everything you've built. She's worth making a point." Roman's eyes blazed. "If I release her now, every enemy I have will know that threatening you is the way to control me. They'll never stop. You'll never be safe. Is that what you want?" "I want this to stop." "Then you married the wrong man." Roman's control finally cracked. "Because I don't stop. I don't compromise. I don't show weakness. That's who I am. That's what keeps this family alive in a world that would devour us otherwise." Evelyn stared at him, breathing hard, and saw the truth she'd been avoiding for a week. Roman Bellini would never negotiate, never back down, never choose the safe path over the strategic one. He was exactly what he'd always claimed to be, a man who burned cities to protect what was his, and now she was his, which meant she had a choice to make: submit to his strategy and watch people die for a point, or take control herself. Evelyn grabbed the phone from Roman's hand and hit redial before he could stop her. Moretti answered immediately. Decision time, Mrs. Bellini. I'll bring Serena to you myself, Evelyn said. Personally, no guards, just me. In exchange, you pull your men back and end this. Evelyn, no. Roman reached for the phone. She stepped back. Do we have a deal? No! Roman's voice was thunder. You're not going out there! Moretti's laugh was cold. I accept. Bring Serena to the North Gate in 10 minutes, alone, or my men resume the attack. The line went dead. Roman grabbed Evelyn's shoulders. Have you lost your mind? He'll kill you the moment you step outside. Maybe. Or maybe he'll take what he wants and leave. She pulled free. Either way, this ends. This ends when I say it ends. No. Evelyn's voice was steel. This ends when I decide I've had enough of watching people bleed for your ego. Roman's face went white. My ego? Yes. Your ego, your pride, your refusal to compromise even when it costs everything. She gestured at the monitors. Look at what's happening. Your home is burning. Your security is dying. Your family is in danger. And for what? To prove a point to the Morettis? To protect you. You're not protecting me. You're using me as an excuse to wage war. Evelyn's voice cracked. I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for 6 months of strategic marriage, not a bloodbath. You signed up for my world. This is what my world looks like. Then maybe I made a mistake. The words hung between them like broken glass. Roman's expression shuddered, went cold. The man who'd pulled her close and kissed her like she mattered disappeared, replaced by the ruthless kingpin who controlled Manhattan through fear. If you walk out that door, he said softly, you're on your own. I won't send security. I won't negotiate for your release if they take you. You'll be making a choice that I can't protect you from. I know. Evelyn, I know. She moved toward the door where Serena was being held. But I'd rather take my chances with Moretti than watch more people die for your pride. Victor stepped in front of her. Mrs. Bellini, I can't let you do this. Get out of my way. Ma'am, that's an order. Evelyn's voice was cold. I'm Roman's wife now, which means I have authority here. Move. Victor looked at Roman. Roman's expression was stone. He gave a single, sharp nod. Victor stepped aside. Evelyn opened the door to the holding cell. Serena sat inside, bruised and disheveled, but alive. When she saw Evelyn, her eyes widened. What? Get up. You're leaving. Serena stood slowly. What's happening? I'm trading you for peace. Let's go. They walked back through the safe room. Roman stood with his back to her, shoulders rigid with barely controlled fury. Valentina stared at Evelyn like she'd lost her mind. The security team looked uncertain, torn between protecting their boss's wife and following their boss's implied permission to let her go. Evelyn grabbed Serena's arm and pulled her toward the stairs. Evelyn. Roman's voice stopped her cold. She turned. He looked at her with eyes full of something she couldn't read. Anger, betrayal, maybe even fear. If you do this, he said quietly, there's no coming back. You'll be making an enemy of me. Evelyn's throat tightened. Then I guess we're both making choices we can't take back. She turned and climbed the stairs before her resolve could crack. The mansion above was a war zone. Broken glass everywhere. Bullet holes in priceless art. Blood-staining marble floors. Evelyn picked her way through the destruction, dragging Serena behind her. Why are you doing this, fight? Serena asked. Shut up. They reached the north entrance. Through the shattered windows, Evelyn could see Moretti's men waiting beyond the gates. Black SUVs idling, armed figures watching. Marcus appeared, bleeding from a cut above his eye. Mrs. Bellini, please reconsider. Open the door, Marcus. Mr. Bellini will have my head. Open the door, or I'll do it myself. Marcus's expression crumpled, but he opened the door. Evelyn stepped out into the sunlight, still wearing her blood-stained wedding dress, her bare feet cut from broken glass, dragging Serena Hale toward the men who'd tried to destroy her. The gates opened. Moretti stepped out of one of the SUVs, smiling like he'd won. Mrs. Bellini, how gracious of you to deliver our property personally. Take her and leave. That was the deal. Of course, Moretti gestured. Two men grabbed Serena and dragged her toward the vehicles. She didn't resist. Evelyn turned to go back inside. One more thing, Moretti said. She froze. Your husband thinks he's untouchable, that his power and money will protect him from consequences. But you know what his real weakness is? Evelyn didn't respond. You. Moretti's smile widened. He tried to hide it, but we all saw how he looked at you during the ceremony, like you actually mattered to him. That's a liability in our world, a vulnerability we can exploit. I'm not his vulnerability. No? Moretti tilted his head. Then why are you standing here instead of letting him fight his own battles? The question hit like a physical blow. Because he was right. She'd stepped in front of Roman's war thinking she was saving lives. But really, she'd just proven that threatening her was the fastest way to control him. She'd made both of them weaker. Go to hell, Evelyn said softly. Moretti laughed. Already there, Mrs. Bellini. Welcome to the neighborhood. The SUVs pulled away. Serena was gone. Evelyn stood alone outside the gates of the Bellini estate, surrounded by the ruins of her wedding, and realized she'd just made the most catastrophic mistake of her life. Behind her, the mansion doors slammed shut. Roman had locked her out, and she had absolutely no idea how to fix what she'd just broken. Evelyn stood outside the locked gates of the Bellini estate in her ruined wedding dress, watching the Moretti vehicles disappear into Manhattan traffic, and understood with brutal clarity that she'd just destroyed everything. Behind her, the mansion doors remained shut. Security personnel moved behind shattered windows, clearing debris and tending to wounded. But none of them came for her. None of them opened the gates. Roman had locked her out. Her bare feet bled onto marble steps. Her wedding dress hung in tatters, stained with blood and smoke. The panic button bracelet still gleamed on her wrist, mocking her with its promise of protection she'd just refused. She'd traded Serena for peace, but she hadn't bought peace. She'd bought Roman's contempt. Evelyn pressed the gate intercom. Static crackled, then Victor's voice, cold and professional. Mrs. Bellini. Let me in. I'm afraid I can't do that. Victor, please. Mr. Bellini's orders are clear. You made your choice. Now live with it. A pause. Your belongings will be sent to whatever address you provide. The marriage contract is void as of this moment. You're no longer affiliated with the Bellini family. The intercom went dead. Evelyn stood there, the reality crushing down on her like physical weight. She'd walked away from Roman's protection thinking she was saving lives. Instead, she'd proven Moretti right. She was Roman's weakness. And in his world, weakness got you discarded. Her phone was still inside. Her shoes. Her wallet. Everything. She had nothing but a blood-stained wedding dress and the crushing realization that she'd made the worst mistake of her life. Evelyn turned and walked down the driveway in bare feet, past the security gates, onto the street. Manhattan stretched before her, indifferent and cold. Pedestrians stared at the bride covered in blood stumbling down the sidewalk. Some pulled out phones to record. Others crossed the street to avoid her. She kept walking, not knowing where she was going, just knowing she couldn't stop. 3 blocks away, a car pulled up beside her. Black sedan with tinted windows. Evelyn's heart stopped. Had the Morettis come back for her? The window rolled down. Valentina sat in the driver's seat, her emerald dress still torn, her expression unreadable. Get in. Evelyn hesitated. Get in the fucking car, Evelyn, before someone with worse intentions finds you bleeding on the street. She got in. Valentina pulled into traffic without a word. They drove in silence through Manhattan, heading toward the financial district. Finally, she parked in an underground garage and killed the engine. That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen anyone do, Valentina said quietly. I was trying to stop people from dying. You were trying to fix something that can't be fixed with surrender. Valentina turned to face her. You want to know what you actually did? You proved to every enemy we have that threatening you is the fastest way to control my father. You made yourself and him weaker, and you destroyed any trust he had in you. Evelyn's throat tightened. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like you thought playing hero would somehow make you the good guy in this story. Valentina's laugh was bitter. There are no good guys, Evelyn. Just people trying to survive and people trying to win. You picked survival. My father picks winning. That's why you're in my car instead of his bed right now. Then why did you come for me? Valentina was quiet for a long moment. Because despite your catastrophic stupidity, you did something no one else has ever done. You made my father care about someone other than this family. You made him human for about 5 seconds. And I'll be damned if I let that die because you panicked. He locked me out. He's hurt. And men like my father don't know how to process hurt, so they turn it into anger. Valentina pulled out her phone. But he also sent me to make sure you didn't get killed in the next 6 hours. So congratulations. You're still under Bellini protection, even if he won't admit it. Evelyn's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. What do I do? You fix it, but not the way you think. Valentina started typing on her phone. The Morettis think they won today. They got Serena back, humiliated my father, and proved you're a viable target. They're celebrating right now. So? So we make them regret it. Valentina's smile was sharp and dangerous. You want to prove to my father that you're not his weakness? Then help me destroy the people who tried to use you as one. How? Valentina handed her the phone. On the screen was a series of financial documents, bank transfers, shell companies, money laundering operations. While you were playing negotiator, I had our tech team dig into Serena's communications with the Morettis. Turns out she kept records, very detailed records, of every illegal transaction the Moretti family has conducted in the past 2 years. Evelyn's breath caught. Why would she keep records? Insurance. Serena's smarter than we gave her credit for. She knew working for the Morettis was dangerous, so she collected evidence as leverage. Valentina's expression hardened. She just never expected to get caught before she could use it. Where did you get this? Serena's phone. Victor confiscated it when we captured her. We've been mining it for the past 3 days. Valentina leaned closer. This information. It's enough to bring federal investigations down on the Moretti family. It's enough to freeze their assets, arrest their leadership, and dismantle their organization. It's a nuclear bomb. And right now, we're the only ones who have it. Evelyn stared at the documents, her mind racing. If we release this, the Morettis get destroyed, not by bullets or violence, by the law, by the system they've spent decades corrupting. Valentina's smile was vicious. It's the kind of revenge my father respects. Clean, permanent, untraceable, back to us. Roman could do this himself. Why send me? Because you're the one who needs to prove you're not a liability. Valentina's voice softened slightly. My father is sitting in his study right now, furious and hurt, and convinced he made a mistake trusting you. If I hand him this information, he'll use it, but he'll never forgive you for making him look weak. If you bring it to him, if you show him that you understand his world well enough to fight on his terms, maybe he'll remember why he married you in the first place. Evelyn looked at the phone, then at Valentina. You're taking a huge risk helping me. Yeah, but I've watched my father be alone for 10 years. Watched him turn into something cold and untouchable because everyone he lets close either betrays him or dies. You're the first person who made him soften, who made him laugh, who made him look at someone with something other than calculation. Valentina's eyes were fierce. I'll be damned if I let that die because you made one stupid decision under fire. What if he still rejects me? Then at least you'll know you tried. Valentina started the car. But between you and me, my father doesn't give up on things he values. He just needs to be reminded why he valued you. They drove back to the estate in silence. The gates opened this time. The mansion looked different now, windows boarded up, gardens scorched. The beautiful wedding venue transformed into a crime scene. Valentina led her through a side entrance, avoiding the main halls. They climbed back stairs to the 4th floor, to the north wing where Roman's private study was located. He's in there, Valentina said quietly. Alone. Drinking and planning retaliation that will probably start another war. Go fix it. Val, don't thank me. Just don't waste this chance. Valentina squeezed her shoulder once, then disappeared down the hallway. Evelyn stood outside Roman's study door for a long moment, gathering courage. Then she knocked. Go away! His voice was rough, exhausted. She opened the door anyway. Roman sat behind his desk, still in his wedding tuxedo, with the jacket discarded and shirt unbuttoned. A whiskey bottle sat beside him, half empty. He looked up when she entered, and the expression on his face was devastating. Hurt, rage, betrayal, all fighting for dominance. I told Victor to lock you out, he said coldly. He did. Valentina let me back in. Then I'll have words with my daughter. Roman poured another drink. What do you want, Evelyn? To apologize. Apology noted. Now leave. No. She closed the door behind her and moved into the room. Not until you hear what I have to say. I don't want to hear it. You made your choice. You prioritize strangers over strategy. You undermine my authority in front of my enemies. You proved that threatening you is the fastest way to control me. He drank. Congratulations. You're exactly the weakness I told you I couldn't afford. The words cut, but Evelyn forced herself to stay calm. You're right. Roman's eyes narrowed. What? You're right. I panicked. I saw people bleeding and reacted emotionally instead of strategically. I made you look weak. I gave the Morettis exactly what they wanted. She moved closer to his desk. I made a catastrophic mistake. And now you expect me to forgive you? No, I expect you to let me fix it. Evelyn pulled out Valentina's phone and slid it across the desk. Serena kept records. Every illegal transaction the Moretti family has conducted for the past 2 years. Bank fraud, money laundering, racketeering, all documented with dates, amounts, and recipient names. Roman stared at the phone like it might explode. Then he picked it up, scrolling through the documents with increasing intensity. Where did you get this? Valentina. She had your tech team mine Serena's phone. Evelyn's voice steadied. This information is enough to bring federal investigations down on the Morettis, enough to freeze their assets and arrest their leadership. It's a nuclear option. Why are you bringing this to me instead of Valentina? Because I need you to understand something. Evelyn met his gaze directly. I'm not good at your world yet. I don't think like you do. I see violence, and my first instinct is to stop it, not strategize around it. That makes me a liability right now, but it doesn't make me weak. Doesn't it? No, it makes me learning. She gestured at the phone. You wanted someone who wouldn't break under pressure. Someone with a spine. I proved today that I'll act when I think lives are at stake. That's not weakness. That's just different priorities. Different priorities get people killed. So does pride. Evelyn's voice hardened. You would have let this turn into a bloodbath to prove a point. Maybe that's strategic. Maybe that's what keeps your empire standing, but it also would have cost you security personnel who've served you for years. It would have cost you political capital when police investigated a firefight at your wedding. It would have cost you in ways you're too proud to admit. Roman's jaw clenched. So you're saying your surrender was the right call? No. I'm saying it was a call I made with incomplete information and too much emotion. I'm saying I fucked up. But I'm also saying that you locked me out instead of teaching me how to think like you do. You married me knowing I was an outsider to this world, then got angry when I acted like one. I married you because you were strong. I am strong. Just not the same way you are. Evelyn moved around the desk until she stood directly in front of him. You want me to be like you? Cold and calculating and willing to sacrifice anything for strategy? I can learn that. But it takes time. And it takes you being willing to teach me instead of punishing me for not already knowing. Roman stared up at her, his dark eyes searching her face. You made me look weak. Yes? You undermined my authority. Yes. You proved to my enemies that you're a vulnerability they can exploit. Yes. Evelyn's voice dropped. And now I'm trying to prove to you that I can also be an asset, that I can learn, that I can fight on your terms when I understand what those terms are. She picked up the phone. This information, it destroys the Morettis without firing a single shot. It's clean, it's permanent, it's exactly the kind of revenge you respect. And I'm handing it to you as proof that I understand what you need from me. Roman took the phone, his expression unreadable. He scrolled through the documents again, slower this time, absorbing the implications. If we release this to federal authorities, he said quietly, the Moretti family will know it came from us. They'll suspect. They won't be able to prove it. They'll retaliate anyway. Let them try. Evelyn's voice was steel. You said yourself, you don't negotiate with terrorists. So don't. Destroy them so completely that retaliation becomes impossible. Roman's lips twitched into something that might have been approval. You're learning faster than I expected. I had good motivation, she paused. And a good teacher when he's not locking me out of the house. You deserve to be locked out. Maybe, but you also sent Valentina to protect me anyway, which means part of you still gives a damn whether I live or die. Roman set down the phone and stood, closing the distance between them. He was so close she could smell whiskey and smoke on his breath, could see the exhaustion carved into his face. I sent Valentina because I'm not ready to admit I made a mistake marrying you, he said quietly. Because despite your catastrophic judgment today, you're still the most interesting woman I've met in 20 years. Because you walked into my world and refused to break, even when breaking would have been easier. And now? Now I don't know. His hand came up, cupping her jaw with surprising gentleness. You terrified me today. Watching you walk out with Serena, knowing you were making yourself a target, unable to stop you without proving the Morettis right about you being my weakness. I've built an empire on control, and you took that control away in 60 seconds. I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry you got locked out? Evelyn thought about lying, then decided he deserved honesty. Both. I'm sorry I undermined you, but I'm also sorry you couldn't trust that I was trying to save lives, not betray you. In my world, those are the same thing. Then maybe your world needs someone who sees them differently. She covered his hand with hers. You said you married me because I reminded you of your sister, because I refused to break. But you can't marry someone for their strength and then punish them when they use it in ways you didn't expect. Roman was quiet for a long time, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. You're asking me to change the rules I've lived by for 30 years. I'm asking you to expand them. Evelyn's voice softened. You're the king of this city, untouchable, feared, respected, but you're also alone. And I think part of you married me because you're tired of being alone. Because having someone who sees your humanity instead of just your power feels like something worth protecting. And you think you can be that person? I think I already am. Otherwise, you would have actually divorced me instead of having Valentina bring me back. She leaned into his touch. The question is whether you can accept that I'll make mistakes while learning to survive in your world. Whether you can teach me instead of expecting me to already know everything. Roman's expression shifted through emotions too quick to track. Anger, hurt, calculation, and finally something that looked almost like surrender. The contract is void, he said. You broke terms by acting against my direct authority. I know. Which means if we continue this marriage, it's not because of paperwork or revenge or strategy. Evelyn's heart hammered. What would it be because of? Roman pulled her closer until their foreheads touched and she could feel his breath against her lips. Because I don't want to let you go, he admitted quietly. Because you're infuriating and reckless, and you make decisions that terrify me. But you also make me feel something other than cold calculation. And I've been cold for so long that I forgot what warmth felt like. Roman. But if we do this, if we rebuild this marriage without the contract, you need to understand the stakes. The Morettis will come for you again. Other families will test you. You'll be in constant danger because of your connection to me. And I can't guarantee I'll always make decisions that prioritize your safety over strategy. I know. Do you? Because today you chose compassion over tactics. That's admirable. But in my world it gets people killed. Including you. His grip tightened. I need to know that you understand what you're signing up for. Not 6 months of strategic marriage, but a life where violence and danger are constant. Where you'll have to make impossible choices. Where compassion might be a luxury you can't afford. Evelyn thought about the past week, about finding Damien with Serena, about signing Roman's contract, about the wedding turned war zone, about trading Serena for peace that never came. She thought about the girl she'd been 7 days ago, naive, trusting, easily destroyed. That girl was dead. The woman standing in Roman's study had been forged in betrayal and violence and impossible choices. She'd walked through fire and come out harder. Not broken, not defeated. Transformed. I understand, she said quietly. And I'm choosing this anyway. Not because of the contract. Not because I'm trapped, but because walking away means going back to a world that couldn't protect me from people like Serena. At least here, with you, I'm learning how to protect myself. Roman searched her face for a long moment. Then he kissed her. Not gentle, not romantic, but desperate and fierce and real. The kiss of two people who'd almost lost each other and didn't want to let go. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Roman pressed his forehead against hers. We use Serena's evidence to destroy the Morettis, he said, quietly, through federal channels that can't be traced back to us. We let the law do what I wanted to do with bullets. Okay. And you start training with Victor, combat, tactics, strategy. If you're going to be in my world, You need to know how to survive it on your own terms. Okay? And we rebuild this marriage as something real, not a transaction, not revenge, but an actual partnership. He pulled back to meet her gaze. Which means you get a voice in decisions. But you also accept that sometimes I'll override you for strategic reasons. Can you live with that? Evelyn thought about it, really thought about what he was asking. Not blind obedience, but trust that he'd consider her perspective even when he couldn't follow it. Yes, she said. As long as you accept that I'll fight you when I think you're wrong. Roman's smile was genuine. I wouldn't want it any other way. 3 months later, the Moretti family collapsed under the weight of federal investigations that seemed to come from nowhere. Assets frozen, leadership arrested, operations dismantled piece by piece until nothing remained but rubble and regret. The investigators never found the source of their information. The evidence had been delivered anonymously through channels so clean they might as well have been ghosts. Roman Bellini watched the news coverage from his study, Evelyn beside him, and allowed himself a satisfied smile. Clean, he said. Permanent. Untraceable. The way you like it. Evelyn leaned against his shoulder. They'd rebuilt their marriage slowly over those 3 months. Evelyn trained with Victor every morning, hand-to-hand combat, tactical thinking, how to spot threats before they materialized. She learned to think like Roman, to see 7 moves ahead, to understand that survival in his world required both strength and strategy. But she also kept her compassion. Her nonprofit flourished with Roman's funding, rescuing more women from dangerous situations than ever before. She used her position as Roman Bellini's wife to open doors that would have stayed closed to an outsider. She became exactly what Roman had seen in her that first night, someone strong enough to survive beside him without losing herself in the process. Damien had left the estate 2 months ago, finally accepting that the woman he'd betrayed was forever beyond his reach. He'd sent a letter before leaving. Just 3 words. I'm sorry. Damien. Evelyn had burned it without responding. Serena disappeared after the Moretti collapse. Rumor had it she'd fled to Europe with whatever money she could salvage. Evelyn didn't care. The woman who'd pretended to be her friend was gone, and good riddance. Valentina had warmed to Evelyn gradually, testing her at every turn until satisfied that her father's new wife was genuine. Now she appeared at family dinners and actually smiled occasionally, her sharp edges softening slightly around someone who understood what it meant to survive the Bellini world. I have something for you, Roman said, pulling a folder from his desk. Evelyn opened it. Inside were adoption papers. Not for a child, for her nonprofit. I'm establishing a foundation, Roman explained. $20 million in perpetual funding. You'll have complete control over operations, but the Bellini name protects it from anyone who might try to use it against you. Evelyn's throat tightened. Roman, you wanted to save people. I'm giving you the resources to do it properly. He turned to face her fully. You made me remember that power isn't just about control. It's about what you do with it. This is me learning from you. She kissed him then, pouring everything she couldn't say into the gesture. Gratitude. Affection. The beginning of something that looked dangerously close to love. When they broke apart, Roman held her close, his hand tangled in her hair. I was wrong about something, he said quietly. What? When I offered you this arrangement, I said we don't do love in the Bellini family, that we do power and strategy and survival. He paused. But somewhere between the contract and now, that changed, at least for me. Evelyn's heart stuttered. Roman, I'm not asking you to say it back. I know you're still learning to trust this, to trust me, but I need you to know that this stopped being a transaction a long time ago. His dark eyes held hers. You're not my strategy anymore, Evelyn. You're my wife. Actually, genuinely. And if that terrifies you, I understand, but I needed to be honest. Evelyn looked at this dangerous, complicated man who'd offered her revenge and given her a kingdom. Who'd been ruthless and honest and protective in equal measure. Who'd locked her out when she betrayed him, then let her back in when she proved she could learn. She thought about love, about what it meant in a world built on violence and strategy, about whether she could love someone whose decisions sometimes terrified her, and realized she already did. It doesn't terrify me, she said softly. It just makes me wonder what the hell I did to deserve you. Roman's laugh was surprised and genuine. You walked away from humiliation with your head up. You signed an insane contract out of rage and survived learning what it cost. You made me remember I'm human underneath the empire. He kissed her forehead. That's more than deserving. That's extraordinary. They stood together in his study while Manhattan glittered beyond the windows, two broken people who'd somehow managed to build something whole from the wreckage of their separate disasters. 6 months after the wedding that had nearly destroyed them both, Evelyn stood in the Bellini Gardens watching a different kind of ceremony. Not a wedding this time, a renewal. They'd invited no one except Valentina and the household staff, who'd become something close to family. No politicians, no business associates, no one who might mistake the moment for strategy. Just witnesses to something real. Roman stood before her in a simple black suit, no tuxedo this time, no performance for cameras. Just a man looking at his wife with everything he felt written clearly across his face. "I'm not good at this," he said when it was time for vows. The romantic declarations and flowery promises. "That's not who I am." "I know," Evelyn said gently, "but I can promise you honesty, protection, respect. I can promise that I'll consider your perspective even when it conflicts with strategy, that I'll teach you everything I know about surviving this world, that I'll stand beside you when enemies come, and they will come." He took her hands. "And I can promise that you'll never again doubt whether you matter to me, because you do, more than anything else in this empire I've built." Evelyn's eyes burned with tears she no longer bothered hiding. "I promise to keep learning," she said, "to become strong enough to stand beside you without losing who I am, to fight you when you're wrong and support you when you're right, to use the power you've given me to actually help people, not just survive." She squeezed his hands. "And I promise to remember that you're human underneath the kingpin, that you need softness sometimes, even if you'd never admit it, that you deserve to be loved for who you are, not what you can provide." Roman pulled her close and kissed her while Valentina clapped and the household staff smiled and Manhattan's skyline bore witness to a second chance neither of them had expected to receive. That night, lying in bed with Roman's arm around her and moonlight streaming through the windows, Evelyn thought about the journey that had brought her here, from betrayal to revenge, from rage to strategy, from surviving to actually living. She'd lost her best friend and boyfriend and naive trust in people's goodness, but she'd gained something more valuable: power, purpose, partnership with someone who saw her clearly and chose her anyway. "What are you thinking?" Roman murmured against her hair. "That I'm glad Damien cheated on me." Roman's laugh rumbled through his chest. "That's a hell of a thing to say." "It's true, though. If he hadn't destroyed me, I never would have agreed to marry you. I never would have found my way into this world. I never would have discovered I could be this person." She turned to face him. "I never would have found you. You make it sound like finding me is a good thing. It is. You're complicated and dangerous, and sometimes you make decisions that terrify me. But you're also honest and protective, and you've given me more power than I ever would have found on my own." She traced the scar on his knuckle. "You're a good thing, Roman Bellini, even if the world is too afraid of you to admit it." Roman's expression softened into something vulnerable. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway." He kissed her then, slow and deep and full of promises they didn't need to speak aloud. And outside the windows, Manhattan glittered like scattered diamonds, indifferent to the love story blooming in its most dangerous heart. 2 years later, Evelyn Bellini stood in front of a Senate committee investigating organized crime in New York, testifying not against her husband, but alongside him. They'd built something unprecedented, a legitimate empire built on the bones of Roman's darker past, transformed through legal channels and strategic partnerships into something almost respectable. The nonprofit had expanded to 6 cities. The Bellini Foundation rescued hundreds of women annually from situations Evelyn had once only read about. And Roman's business operations had shifted almost entirely to legal ventures, his past slowly buried under layers of legitimate success. They'd never be completely clean. The foundation of Roman's empire was still built on violence and fear, but they were building something better on top of it, something that actually helped people instead of just surviving them. Evelyn finished her testimony and stepped down from the podium. Roman waited for her in the hallway, looking distinguished in a navy suit, every inch the legitimate businessman he was slowly becoming. "How'd it go?" he asked. "They believe me, mostly." She took his arm. Your past still makes them nervous. My past should make them nervous. Roman's smile was sharp. But my present is becoming something they can work with. That's progress. They walked out of the building together, into sunlight and camera flashes and questions shouted by reporters. Evelyn had learned to handle them. The perfect smile, the practiced deflection, the ability to turn scrutiny into opportunity. She'd become exactly what Roman had seen in her that first night. A queen. Not because of her connection to him, but because she'd learned to wield power with precision and compassion in equal measure. That evening, back at the estate that had become home, Evelyn found Roman in his study reviewing contracts. She sat across from him, comfortable in the silence they'd learned to share. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked suddenly. Roman looked up. "Regret what? Offering me that contract? Marrying me out of revenge against Damien? All of it." He set down his pen, considering the question seriously. No, the method was flawed. The reasoning was suspect. But the outcome? He smiled. The outcome gave me you. So no, I don't regret it. Even though I nearly got us both killed during the wedding, even though you learned, you grew, you became someone I couldn't have anticipated when I made that offer. Roman stood and moved around the desk to her. You know what I regret? What? That I wasted so much time pretending this was just strategy, that I didn't tell you sooner that you'd become essential. He pulled her up from the chair and into his arms. That I almost let you walk away because I was too proud to admit I needed you. Evelyn wrapped her arms around him, feeling his heartbeat against hers. We were both learning. We still are. Good. I'd hate to think we'd figured everything out already. Where's the fun in that? Roman's laugh was warm and genuine. You're a terrible influence on me. You love it. I love you. He said it easily now, without hesitation. Even when you're infuriating and reckless and making decisions that give me gray hair. You already had gray hair when I met you, and you're making it worse. He kissed her temple. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. They stood together in his study, two people who'd been broken separately and rebuilt themselves together, stronger than they'd ever been alone. The girl who'd walked into the Bellini mansion 7 days before her wedding had been naive and trusting and easily destroyed. But the woman standing in Roman's arms had walked through fire and betrayal and impossible choices. She'd learned to survive in a world built on violence. She'd learned to wield power without losing compassion. She'd learned that strength came in many forms, and surrender wasn't always weakness. Most importantly, she'd learned that sometimes the worst disasters led to the best transformations. Damien's betrayal had destroyed her old life, but it had also given her a new one, a better one. A life where she stood beside Manhattan's most dangerous man not as his weakness, but as his equal. Where she used the power of his name to actually help people instead of just surviving them. Where she'd transformed from victim to queen through sheer force of will and refusal to break. And if that journey had required walking through hell first, well, at least she'd come out the other side wearing a crown. Roman pulled back to look at her, his dark eyes full of everything they'd survived together. What are you thinking? He asked. Evelyn smiled. That I'd do it all again, every mistake, every disaster, every impossible choice, because it led me here. To me? To us. She rose on her toes and kissed him. To this life we built from the wreckage, to becoming someone I never knew I could be. And who is that? Evelyn Bellini. She said her married name with pride. Wife to a kingpin, queen to an empire, and finally, exactly who I was always meant to become. Roman held her close, and outside the windows, Manhattan glittered with possibility and promise, and the understanding that sometimes the best love stories started with revenge and ended with redemption. The end. But also, in many ways, just the beginning.